Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN What If, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of What If Deku Became a Devil Fruit Powerhouse? If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. Not all men are created equal. You should give up. He can't develop a quirk, the doctor had said bluntly and straight to the point as he leaned back in his chair. Little 4-year-old Izuku Midoriya dropped his All Might action figure in shock as the doctor dropped the news on him like a 10-ton anvil on his head. What? Is there something wrong with him, doctor? His mother, Inko Midoriya, asked with a worried tone. Other children his age have already manifested their quirks, but my Izuku is the only one in his kindergarten that has yet to show. Inko was, of course, annoyed by the doctor's blunt and crass behavior, but pushed through it for her son. The doctor began to explain that by the age of 4, the said child should manifest a quirk that belonged to one of their parents, or a composite of both. During the early years of quirk research, it was found that anyone with a quirk did not have a second joint in the pinky toe. The proximal interphalangeal joint was rather useless in the pinky toe for humans, as it wasn't used. This was used to represent the next stage of evolution. And since Izuku has 2 joints in his pinky toe, the chances of him developing a quirk is 0, no matter how old he is. The doctor concluded, "We've had late bloomers before, but I'm sorry to say that your son will never be one of them, ma'am." Crestfallen, Inko guided her child back to their apartment, unable to bear the fact her child's dream was shattered. Her husband, Hisashi, was working overseas, so Inko called him about Izuku not manifesting his quirks, so Hisashi told his boss he was taking a week off. Fortunately, his boss was understanding, and when he got back home, Hisashi showed his family tickets for a cruise, hoping it would help get Izuku's mind off the troubling news. The following day, the Midoriya family was on the cruise and having a good time. Izuku began to steadily cheer up and have fun. Unfortunately, the good times wouldn't last very long. An alarm rang and explosions of water suddenly shot up beside the ship. "Everyone inside!" the captain ordered, a little too late. A cannonball suddenly sent him flying to his watery grave. From within the ship's hulls, the passengers could make out a horrifying sight. A monstrously sized man, bigger than the ship, was trying to destroy a pirate ship. A ship with a Jolly Roger of a skull with a yellow W mustache and a Viking helmet. Izuku would later learn that the giant was Sanwan Wolf, aka the living battleship, and the pirate crew was the dreaded world pirates. Sanwan had been sleeping when the ship anchor woke him up, starting a fight. "Have no fear. We are here." The worried civilians began to smile as Selkie's ship pulled up and All Might himself leaped in to punch the giant away before blocking an attack from the captain of the world pirates, Burndy World. It was the coolest thing Izuku had ever seen as his mother raced with him towards the lifeboats, the greatest hero fighting off a pirate captain and giant with nothing but his fists and a smile on his face, a beaming smile that made others feel at ease. All Might would save them, no worries. Something crashed behind the lifeboats and a scream filled the air. Izuku looked to see a girl his age all by her lonesome, looking around in terror. "Mom? Dad? Where are you? Help." Seeing the terrified child lost and in the middle of a war zone with nobody around to help her, Izuku didn't know what had come to him. In an instant, the green-haired boy tore himself from his mother's arms and onto the sinking half of the ship to help the girl, paying everyone else no mind. All that mattered to him at that moment was that she needed help and he could do something. "Come with me. Let's go." Unfortunately, before they could return to the lifeboats, Sanwan Wolf rose from under the ship. Acting as fast as he could, Izuku pushed the girl away to safety as he was sent flying. "No!" All Might called out, trying to abandon his battle with World to save the boy, but the pirate captain wouldn't allow it, delivering a series of punches that kept the number 1 pro hero distracted. And the ship began to fall back to Earth. Selkie had his crew tossed a lifesaver for Izuku to catch onto. The sea rescue hero ready to jump in and save the kids himself when another lifeboat suddenly snapped off and the boy fell right inside it, seemingly saved. Only for Wolf to once again send the remnants of the cruiser flying with a giant fist. Luckily, he missed Izuku's boat, but the waves from his movements sent him drifting away. Izuku! Hisashi and Inko screamed as their son he saved drifted off into the distance. Devil. After drifting for what felt like hours, Izuku found himself on an island. Dazed and scared from the experience, Izuku stepped onto the beach and looked around before heading into the forest, calling out for anybody who might come and help. "I'm hungry." The greenette sighed, hearing his stomach growl as he found a clearing with a small lake. As he pondered on what to do for food, he noticed a tree in the middle of the clearing, surrounded by beautiful flowers. The tree was large and majestic with spiral patterns all over its bark. Izuku suddenly noticed a single fruit hanging from one of its branches. It was the color of all the rainbows and had the shape of a perfect sphere similar to a cantaloupe, with a stem sprouting out of the top, with swirls that went in a curly S-like pattern. Its overall appearance greatly resembled a Yubari king. Seeing as there was no other food around, Izuku took the fruit off the branch and bit into it, only to cringe in disgust at the awful bitter taste. Yuck! He spat out what he could and wiped his mouth before suddenly freezing up, seeing strange visions play out in his mind. In the vision, he could see men and women harnessing powers far beyond any quirks he had ever seen. Many could manipulate the elements, transform into fantastic beasts, and harness all sorts of other strange powers such as dividing their bodies into pieces they could freely control and even manipulate magnetism or stretch their bodies like rubber. What the dash? Izuku said, dazed and confused as his head spun from all the images before passing out. Devil. Rise and shine, brat. The first thing Izuku saw when he opened his eyes was a grinning face. His vision returned to him as he looked to see who it was. He was an elderly man of relatively tall height with a very muscular build and tan skin. Two of his most distinguishing traits were his round glasses and facial hair, arranged, embattled across his lower jaw. He also had a scar over his right eye. He wore a large silver hooded cloak with the hood down over a plain t-shirt, shorts, and sandals. Underneath these clothes, the old man's body was surprisingly built and very well toned. Izuku knew one thing above all else: whoever this man was, he was strong and not to be messed with. Despite that, he seemed nice enough, judging by his smile. Izuku Midoriya, I presume? Izuku nodded weakly. How did you? I pay close attention to news and we're pretty darn close to World Journal HQ. Oh goodness, where are my manners? Sorry kiddo, seems my mind is going after all. The old man smiled as he gave a gentlemanly bow. Silver's Rayleigh at your service. Retired pirate hero and freelance costume designer at your service. Now, I reckon you're tired and hungry, right? Why yeah. Izuku said, his stomach growling. Well, first things first, welcome to my humble abode here at Sabaody Archipelago. A little slice of heaven if I do say so myself. Izuku noticed out the nearby window that bubbles were floating everywhere. He gazed in wonder before a tall and beautiful woman with short black hair. Oh, the kid's awake, huh? She smiled, a cigarette in hand. That is my wife, Shaku. Rayleigh beamed in pride. She owns this bar. And speaking of hungry, you didn't happen to take a bite from a spiraled fruit earlier, did you? Izuku's eyes widened and worry filled him, before the old man burst out laughing. Ah, no worries, kiddo. Besides that fruit? It was the devil fruit. Rayleigh explained. Something my late friend Roger found. A fruit that supposedly held the powers of an entire world at the beck and call of whoever ate it. Izuku's eyes widened. I have a quirk? Nope. Rayleigh said, popping as he poured himself a drink. Quirks are born in you. What have you got? If you put the work in, pretty much any power under the sun. So, I can be a hero? Izuku asked. You already are, with what you did on that ship. Besides, Roger didn't have a quirk and he did amazing things. Rayleigh retorted. Whoever tells you that you need a quirk is an idiot. I mean, look at me, pushing 70 and strong enough to whoop beasts like nothing. No superpowers, no quirk, just training. And money from costume design. Shaki added. Rayleigh rolled his eyes. And money from costume design, yes. Whoa, that is so cool. Izuku whispered, stars in his eyes as Rayleigh chuckled and ruffled his fluffy bush of green hair. I can see you're enthusiastic, kiddo. Not a lot of people remember me, to be honest. I prefer a remote lifestyle these days. But you can talk about the past once you've had something in your belly. What do you like, little hero? Shaki asked Izuku. Katsudon. Izuku asked, smiling when the lovely woman prepared his favorite dish along with some juice. Master, I heard about that boy who was shipwrecked. Is he okay? A voice came as a young boy who appeared to be Izuku's age came in, but he was quite different from normal boys. He had yellow skin and light blue eyes with white pupils. He wore blue and yellow armor that seemed like a bug's carapace almost, complete with yellow shoulder spikes and a blue helmet that covered the top half of his head and over his eyes that had yellow spikes on it. All in all, he looked like a sort of robot, yet also organic. Shaken but otherwise okay. Rayleigh smiled at the boy, then remembering that his guest was from the civilized world. Man, I really am losing my senses. Izuku, this is Marco Nui. Marco gave a bow to Izuku, who bowed back from his seat. Do you have some kind of robot quirk? Izuku asked, trying to not sound rude. Marco chuckled at that. If I had a yen, berry or dollar for all the times I've been asked that, I'd have 3 of them. Which isn't much and really should be higher. But no, not a robot quirk. Also, good thing you're sitting for the explanation. Shaki then came in, giving Izuku a warm plate of katsudon and grilled fish for Marco. We found Marco here in a pod that landed not too far away. He's basically an alien prince. Still don't like that description? Marco mused, looking to Izuku. Where I come from, the eldest and wisest are our leaders. I'm basically... He's demigod among his people. Rayleigh explained. His father is what one could consider a god among them, and his mother was a conspiracy alien theorist. Again, do not really like that description. Marco winced, then spied the awestruck look on Izuku's face. Honestly, while Izuku was surprised, considering he'd just eaten a fruit that gave him a bajillion powers, he wasn't too surprised. So, how would you describe it? Izuku inquired, making Marco smile. Well, my father, Madanui, is the first and greatest hero of Spherus Magna, the world we call home. Marco explained. Long story short, he was also the able, as you humans call it, to a certain someone. The way Marco spoke, no one dared press him for more details. Who took over and enveloped Spherus Magna into chaos after putting him out of commission. My father eventually freed himself and with the help of others inspired by him, took our planet back. Along the way, he met my mother, Kina. And despite everything, or maybe because of it in Mom's case, well, I came along. I'm technically the first child of Spherus Magna, at least in the eyes of humanity. This left Izuku with many questions, but they were cut short by the sound of chirping. A small beetle-like creature appeared on Marco's shoulder, hopping up and down before pouncing on Izuku and nestling into his fluffy green hair. Oh, that's my buddy, click. Seems he likes you, Izuku. Marco smiled as Izuku giggled bashfully. Devil. After a few days of eating and resting so Izuku could properly recover from his harrowing experience, Rayleigh brought him to the neighboring island of Egghead, Marco tagging along as well. Hey, Rayleigh-sen, what even is Egghead? Izuku asked. The old man smirked. It's like Island where all the bigwig scientists make their fancy support items, but Vegapunk is way beyond any of those tinker toys. And as they got closer, the boy believed him. Cybernetic sea monsters and other robots, amazing machines, and wildlife, it was like something out of a Roald Dahl book. Sugoi. Yeah, it's cool, huh? Marco smiled, click chirping excitedly. After docking, they made their way up towards the tallest tower on the island, Izuku marveling at all he saw for as long as he could before Rayleigh scooped him up and carried him to a door. Sorry kiddo, no time. For sightseeing. He then knocked on the door. Hey Doc. You available? Rayleigh then noticed the door was unlocked and opened it, only for a hand to be aimed at his head, the hand flipping open to reveal a cannon of sorts. The owner of the literal hand cannon was a young girl who seemed to be the same age as Izuku. She had soft features and stark white skin with a faint blue tint to contrast with the pink tattoos on her neck, stomach, and right thigh that read PKD-. She also seemed to be cybernetic as she had machine-like lines around her eyes, which were red with yellow circles for pupils. "Oh hey old man. What's going on? Everything good?" "Nothing much, Rebecca." Rayleigh responded, remained unfazed even with the gun to his head, which only served to freak Izuku out. "You get used to it." Marco sighed when he noticed the boy's concern. "What's up, chum? You need something?" "We need to see the document. This kid here needs help." Rayleigh explained calmly, gesturing to Izuku. Rebecca sighed before turning around. "Yo, shakalaka. The doc needs to see these guys." A tall man with a robot helmet for a head walked in. Izuku couldn't help but be reminded of a certain musician his dad listened to. "Please, come this way." Shaka motioned. "The doctor will be along shortly." The three followed Shaka inside as an elderly man in a lab coat descended the stairs. He had a bushy mustache and a long, goofy tongue. But what most stood out was his head, easily double his size. "My goodness, Rayleigh. You didn't tell me you'd be here so soon." "Nice to see you too, Doc." Rayleigh smirked before taking something out. "Oh, is Pilar here? I got that thing he wanted." "Ugh, I'll call him." Rebecca groaned. "Yo bro. It's for you." An older man slid in. He was tall and had a lean muscled frame with black hair styled in a mohawk and a beard. He had golden robotic hands and cybernetic goggles and wore a black sleeveless vest with a pair of jeans. What?" he gruffly asked. "Rayleigh got that thing for ya? Come get it." Rebecca huffed. "It's here." The man, Pilar by the looks of it, beamed as he snatched the thing from Riku, inspecting it in his metal hands. "Top of the line, baby. Up. Quality telekill alloy. Lace that with your hands and you can punch through even the toughest quirk." As Pilar enjoyed himself, Rayleigh and Vegapunk were busy discussing things from the side. "So, the boy ate the devil fruit, eh?" Rayleigh nodded and placed Izuku down, allowing Vegapunk to take a good look at him. Kind and clever mind and already brave. I can live with such a child eating it." "I'm sorry for that, sir." Izuku tried to apologize. "Oh, don't be. You eating it saved me and others here a lot of trouble. My sponsors wanted me to make an army of those, but with the only usable one already eaten? Well, even they are hesitant to murder children. Sometimes." To distract Izuku from realizing what this meant, he messed with Izuku's hair and smiled warmly. "What kind of quirk do you have? Is it an apple head mutation?" Izuku asked, pointing to the top half of his head, which seemed to be replaced with the top half of an apple connected to a brown stick. The doctor just laughed. "That's a new one. Apple-powered. While my meta ability is a mutant type, it doesn't have anything to do with apples." He then cleared his voice as he began to explain. "My meta ability is Big Brain. It allows me to store an infinite amount of knowledge. However, doing so places stress on my brain and could kill me, so I created punk records as well as my satellites, which hold knowledge based on certain emotions." "So cool," Izuku said, looking at the large device with awe. "And please, dear boy, never address superpowers as quirks in my presence. I refuse to call them that. Makes them sound..." Vegapunk paused to stifle a shudder. "Anyways, what can I do for you, Rayleigh?" "Well, for one thing, Izuku is gonna need that book you wrote," Rayleigh said. "Here I come with it." Enclunked in a large humanoid robot, one that looked like a wind-up toy, carrying a book that he handed to the professor. "Thank you, Pythagoras." Vegapunk smiled as he handed Izuku the book. "We also need to find a way to get the kids back home," Rayleigh said. "Of course, considering how you've worked to keep yourself and your science team secluded, it may take a while to get a proper boat for them." That is true." Vegapunk hummed. "Dorothy." "Yes, doctor?" Two rather beautiful women stepped in. The first had porcelain pale skin, red hair, black eyes, and a black dress. The other had lovely blonde hair, long eyelashes, and brown eyes. She wore a dark dress and coat with fur around the neck, along with boots and an astrakhan hat. "Make sure the boy is well fed and tended to." Rayleigh and I need to discuss some things. Devil. For the past 5 hours, Izuku had sat down and begun reading the book of devil fruits. Rebecca and Marco sat with him, looking over his shoulders to see what all the fruits could do. Logia, Paramecia, Zoan. Geez. There are so many subcategories for the Zoans. Rebecca said. Yeah, the doc likes to categorize, Rayleigh said as he chugged down some sake. My dad encountered a few of these devil fruits back a long time ago, Marco noted. Suddenly, the sound of crashing and banging was heard as everyone looked to see what was going on. Dr. Vegapunk let out a sigh and shook his head. Oh dear, what am I going to do with those kids? What they saw were 7 children, all with tan skin, yellow eyes, and most notably, black angel-like wings and plumes of fire on their backs. They seemed to be causing trouble for a young girl who seemed to be a giant of some kind, as well as a blonde woman with headphones and a sultry-looking young lady with orange hair. Kids! Vegapunk barked as the 7 stopped the mischief they were doing and stood to attention. Yes, Grandpa? What have I taught you about how to conduct yourself around newcomers? Leave nothing for CP9? Okay, correction. Vegapunk nodded. What did I tell you about newcomers your age? To let us see them first. They all said in unison tiredly. Apologies for them. Vegapunk chuckled as he turned to Izuku. Meet the Seraphim, Esrith, Esgreed, Sloth, Tinvi, Esgluttony, Hust, and Spride. Grandpa, we have names. SNV whined. Oh right. Vegapunk apologized sheepishly. Respectively, the names they have given themselves are Makoto, Yato, Chikara, Kahaku, Sumiko, Shun, and Kanzuya. While they all had the same skin, eyes, and wings, the 7 each had unique features to differentiate themselves from each other. Esrith, Makoto, had a rather childish appearance with messy blonde hair, a rather toned build under his clothes, and a dragon tattoo carved at the top of his left bicep, just below his shoulder. His flame plume was colored pure white. Esgreed, Yato, was a bit taller than the others and had a slouched posture. His hair was short, spiky, and colored pale blue, and he had thin black eyebrows. On the left side of his jaw and extending down to his neck, he had a large scar, and a tattoo of a fox was carved on the left side of his waist. His flame plume was colored crimson red. Esloth, Chikara looked like a young boy, even more childish in appearance than Makoto. He had a high forehead and thin eyebrows, and was carrying a spiral-marked pillow. A tattoo of a grizzly bear was marked just above his left ankle, on the outer side of his lower leg. His flame plume was colored a forest green. Senvi, Kahaku, was much taller than everyone else, almost akin to a giant. However, she had a very cute and fair appearance. She had medium-length brown hair which was tied up into large twin tails. A tattoo of a snake was marked on her left outer thigh. Her flame plume was colored caramel brown. Esgluttony, Sumiko, looked the most childish out of everyone next to Chikara. She had black shoulder-length hair, 3 beauty marks below her right eye, and on the left side of her neck was a tattoo of a boar. Her flame plume was colored bright blue. Eslust, Shun, had an androgynous appearance and magenta hair that reached just past his jaw. Over his eyes was a pair of light-framed glasses, and on the right side of his chest was a tattoo of a goat. His flame plume was colored pink. Finally, the Pride, Kanzuya, had a very scrawny appearance with a shy demeanor to him. He had short brown hair and a gentle smile on his face. On his back was a tattoo of a lion. His flame plume had the traditional orange color. These precocious little brats are part of the doc's latest project, Rebecca said. You're a precocious brat yourself, Becca. Rayleigh smirked, ruffling the cybernetic girl's head. Hey dash old man. Language. We have guests. Vegapunk scolded. Honestly, your brother is a terrible influence on you. Hey Marco. Who's this? Kahaku asked when she noticed Izuku. Oh, this is Izuku. We rescued him when he washed up on the beach. Marco introduced, patting the other boy on the back as he nervously waved. Makoto smiled as he walked up to Izuku and shook his hand excitedly. Pleasure to meet ya. You all heard our names, and I think I heard someone call you, Izuku? Why yes. En nice to meet you. Izuku stuttered, shaking from the aggressive handshaking. He seems unsure. Shun mused. So many powers, no wonder he's unsure, Shun. Chikara smirked. At least he has a good head on his shoulders. Kanzuya mused. He'd be fun to wrestle. Yato cheered. What about me? Marco asked, tapping his foot. No offense, Marco, but you get a little too aggressive. Izuku smiled weakly, not used to all this praise but liking it all the same. Gotta say, Doc, not much resemblance between you and the kids, Rayleigh noted. And there is a reason for that. Have you ever heard of the 7 deadly sins? Izuku was silent. The legendary knights? More silence. The big names before King Arthur? Even more silence. Oh, what do they teach you kids nowadays? Vegapunk screamed to the heavens, only to grimace in pain. Oh, by Oda, I am out of shape on this whole angry thing. I'm in preschool. Izuku managed. I'm from another planet. Marco added. Okay, long story short. Vegapunk cleared his throat as he began to tell his tale. Better sit down, kid. This is a real doozy. Rayleigh smirked as Vegapunk started. Long, long ago, before noble knights and chivalry truly bloomed, the world was overwhelmed by demons and monsters. Eventually, a group made up of members from all races was formed to bring some order to the chaos. And they succeeded, eventually, although apparently, they were all murderously cruel and violent. I say apparently because most of what we do know of them comes from propaganda-like messages. But anyways, thanks to that warmongering idiot, Judge Vimsmoke, I was able to acquire their lineage factor. You mean DNA? Izuku asked. No, Vegapunk said flatly before continuing. I was able to clone them back, and I grew to love them as if they were my own. Ah, Gramps. Sumiko and Kahaku giggled happily. A touching story, but we still gotta help out these kids. Rayleigh pointed out, gesturing to Izuku. Right, we'll discuss ideas on how to get the kids back. Vegapunk nodded, seeing Marco sparring with Makoto and Yato as Izuku asked the others about their quirks. Devil. Unbeknownst to everyone, one of Vegapunk's satellites, the blonde girl with headphones known as York, had slipped away and was preparing to make a call. Unlike her fellow satellites, York was out for number 1, i.e. herself. And this was the perfect chance to try and make a deal with the old men. The right hand of Roger himself? A bunch of incredibly powerful kids? The chance of finally being free of Vegapunk and the others? If she paid her cards right? She could become a world noble. I wouldn't do that if I were you. York was brought out of her musings and froze, and the sight of Shaki smoking a cigarette as she walked on the broken bodies of several guards. I like those kids. And Ray, for all his faults, is my dear beloved husband. And he likes them. So, you have a choice. Die right here and now when you try to call? Or live to see a new age and weigh your options. What's it going be? Not trusting herself to speak and deciding she liked living more than she was willing to risk it all to be free, York gulped and backed away. Good girl. Shaki patted her head. Also? I was never here. York blinked and then, true to her word, Shaki was nowhere to be seen. What? The doc wants to see ya, gorgeous. Pilar smirked as he walked up to York, playfully smacking her behind and making her yelp, a blush spreading across her face. Pilar. Yeah. Keep my hands to myself. Pilar chuckled, holding his upgraded metal hands up. But I had to test out the new alloy. Devil. Izuku had bonded quite well with Marco, Rebecca, and the Seraphim, who hadn't gotten to know anybody aside from the people on Egghead. Heck, only Rayleigh and Shaki had been the ones outside of the island to meet them before. Izuku felt an especially close camaraderie with Sumiko, mostly due to the fact she indulged in his analytical smarts and even bounced ideas off with him. Just because the Seraphim had lived on Egghead for as long as they've currently been alive didn't mean they were uninformed of the rest of the world. Before the kids were ready to hit the hay after enjoying some good food and merriment, Rayleigh finally sat Izuku down and made him an offer. Considering that you ate the devil fruit, I feel like you need to be able to learn how to properly HR and assess what you can do now. The Dark Knight explained. However, I can see a lot of camaraderie forming between you and Vegapunk's brats already. Reminds me of my days with Roger. Indeed, Roger was the original #1 pro hero before All Might inherited the title, Shaka said, having been observing nearby. And from what I've been reading in the news, heroes have been getting stale and soft, Rayleigh said. So that's why I feel like it's time to make a new generation of heroes willing to do what they do best for the sake of freedom and joy, just like Roger did in his day. You want to train Izuku? Can we train with him too? Makoto asked. I mean, we are pretty strong, but it'd be kind of nice to have a new face around. I don't want to say goodbye to Izuku, Kahaku said, fighting back tears. Me neither. Chikara joined in. It would be a shame to bid Izuku farewell when we've only just gotten to be his friends, Sumiko added, then looked to her side. Shun. Okay, I'd miss him too, Shun sighed. But this is Izuku's choice, let's see what he says. Rayleigh knelt to the green-haired boy. Izuku, if you can make it through this training, you can get through anything, but that means this will be hell. Rayleigh warned. You will be tired, broken, hungry, and constantly need to improve. You will emerge from my training at the level of a pro hero, maybe even All Might himself. But once we start there is no going back. It's not too late, Vegapunk can radio for a pickup and send you home. Selkie is in the area. Dr. Vegapunk noted. Izuku looked worried but then mulled over his options. He could go home and have no way of properly honing his powers, or he could stay, and while he wouldn't be able to see his family again for who knows how long, he'd at least be able to come back stronger and prepared. After making his decision, he smiled and turned to face Rayleigh. Rayleigh-sensei, that I'll accept. I'll get super strong and find a way back home. Then we'll become the greatest heroes ever. And we'll help so you won't have to feel lonely. Makoto and his siblings all smiled. Something tells me this is the start of a beautiful friendship. Marco beamed, click chirping in agreement. You're all right in my book, Chummy. Rebecca chuckled. Maybe I can join in, feels like I could do for some upgrades. I do know my way around the labs. Rebecca and Pilar do constantly seek to improve the cybernetics grandfather gave them. Sumiko smiled. Rayleigh smiled as he turned to Vegapunk, who nodded his head in approval. These kids are something else, I tell ya. I have a good feeling about them. 10 long years had passed for Izuku and his newfound friends as they trained under Rayleigh's brutal yet surprisingly fair training. He did indeed warn them that it would be hell on earth, after all. As Izuku grew, he learned that his devil fruits didn't become stronger, he just became more creative with them. This helped him come up with new ideas on how to HRNSS them, which Dr. Vegapunk approved of and documented whenever he could. Marco was able to HRNSS the elements of his home planet, which narrowed down to manipulating fire, water, earth, air, ice, stone, gravity, iron, lightning, magnetism, plant life, sonics, psionics, plasma, light, and shadow. He was most proficient in the water element since that was the one his mother was able to HRS. Click could also transform into a shield, and Marco also had a sword inherited from his father, both of which he could transfer his elements through. Rebecca, due to being one of Egghead's inhabitants, had access to cybernetic upgrades that she built into herself whenever she had the chance. She and her brother had come from an impoverished family that tried to sell them to pirates for a hefty sum of money, only to be killed in the process. It was by a miracle that the pirates' ship was totaled and they washed up on Egghead. It helped that her quirk, technopathy, which allowed her to freely modify any form of technology she was in contact with, also extended to her cybernetics. As for the Seraphim, thanks to their lineage factor, they also inherited the powers of the 7 deadly sins, not just their likeness. Makoto wielded the power of Meliodas, Yato the skills of Ban, Chikara got the magic of King Harlequin, Shun the mental prowess and powers of Gauther, Kanzuya the fiery strength of Escaner, Kahaku the mighty earth powers of Diana, and Sumiko the true magic of Merlin, who it turns out, was a woman. The kids had also learned how to HRSS the spiritual force known as Haki, which was basically like the Force from Star Wars but in 3 separate flavors. Observation Haki allowed those who used it to sense the presence, strength, and emotions of others, as well as, if one trained enough, to see into the future for a couple of seconds. Armament hockey allowed those with it to coat their body or even objects on their person in a black coating that granted them enhanced strength and defense. It also was how Izuku had built up most of his durability, as it was the one surefire way the others could hit him even with the powers of the devil fruit that otherwise made him intangible. Finally, Conqueror's Haki could only be used by a select few individuals, those who had the willpower of a king. Rayleigh himself had this type of haki, and after much training, Izuku learned that he possessed it as well. There had briefly been a bit of drama among the kids with this reveal, as Yato, Makoto, and Kazuya didn't want to settle for leadership under one. Rayleigh had then explained that Conqueror's Haki didn't make Izuku a king badass by default. It was more a sign that he was, if he was willing to train and work for it, going to become something extraordinary. That everyone could live with. Devil. On the beach of Sabadoi Archipelago, a modest straw house sat. Inside the house, sleeping in a hammock, was a now 14-year-old Izuku Midoriya. Thanks to Rayleigh's training, Izuku had developed a lean, fit build with finely toned abs and definitive muscles. The muscles were able to be deceptively hidden underneath clothing, and Izuku still had a cute freckled baby face and a bush of emerald green hair. Waking up and yawning, Izuku rubbed the sleep from his eyes and made a mild breakfast consisting of scrambled eggs, bacon, and buttered toast. After finishing his food, he heard a knock on his door and went to answer it, seeing Marco, Rebecca, and the Seraphim waiting for him. "Izuku, it's time." Marco smiled, looking much taller and slender but still having a very fit appearance. "Mornin', chum." Rebecca smiled, having grown slightly taller and more mature, but still had a bit of a childish appearance. That, and she was dwarfed by most of the others, with only Chikara being the same height as her. Makoto still had a bit of a childish appearance, and Chikara himself looked virtually unchanged from how he was 10 years ago. Sumiko had seen the biggest change, now looking like a seductress with pink lipstick and a buxom figure. Now, if only there were others I'm not related to who would apricot me. She'd always smirk. Yato was still the tallest of the Seraphim, his body lanky yet muscular. Kazuya still looked like a skinny, shy young man, but that merely hid the power he contained whenever he basked in the sun's rays. Kahaku had a cute, curvy figure looking the perfect blend of adorable and secretary shun. Like Chikara, remained unchanged, except he did have a bit more muscle on him, at the least. It was quite a hectic life, but a fun one all the same. Training and sparring, hunting and pranking. There was the brief PRD Kahaku and Chikara had been dirty-minded between their siblings. No one liked to talk about those days. And the time Shun's meta ability lead to them all learning about where babies came from in the worst, or best, in Makoto's eyes, possible. And the time Chikara had briefly become Lord of the Beasts and in a maddened with supposed power rush, sicked all the females on Izuku when he'd accidentally stuck himself in his Zoan forms. And the time they all swapped genders thanks to the Herm power just to prove which SEC had it rougher. Spoiler, it was a tie. And when Sumiko, Marco, Kahaku almost being kidnapped by incompetent SLV traders. And who could forget when the kids had turned half of the archipelago into winter wonderlands and the other half into deserts? Or when Marco and Rebecca went on the run for a few weeks when Pilar thought they were dating. But despite it all, the kids were the best of friends. They were nakama, a word Rayleigh had taught them, deeper than blood, bonded through training. Devil. You brats that you've been training for 10 straight years now. I dare say you can take on the world and win now. Rayleigh said, pride in his voice. Now, I think you have earned the right to set sail. The 10 young teens were brought to a fancy-looking ship that could support all of them and had plenty of accommodations to make their trip a pleasant one. It looked to be a mix of Vegapunk and Rayleigh's designs. The doc and I put this together for your maiden voyage. Don't forget to write to us, okay? We shall also be accompanying you, Dorothy said as she and Maytel stepped in, along with Pilar. The doctor wants us to keep watch over future progress. We're gonna miss you, old man. Yato cried as he, Izuku, Marco, and Makoto hugged the Dark Knight, sobbing manly tears all the while as he comforted them, a lone tear running down his face. I'll make you proud, master. Marco sniffed. Vegapunk was in tears because he couldn't bid farewell to you himself, Rayleigh added. Stupid Caesar and his stupid ruining of an island. Chikara mumbled, Kazuya patting his shoulder. He left you a message on the ship with his goodbyes on it. The old man said. I know I don't have to say it, but look out for each other and have fun. After some more tearful farewells, Izuku and his friends boarded the ship, Kazuya taking the wheel while Izuku sat in the crow's nest, raising a flag that he and Shun had designed together. Let's go, Captain. Makoto called as Izuku pointed ahead. You got it, Mako-chan. Next stop, Mizudafu, Japan. As the ship sailed ahead, Dorothy sat down in front of a piano and began to play a melodious tune, Maytel joining her with a violin. As the kids waved Rayleigh goodbye while their ship floated further and further away, they all began to sing, tears in their eyes. Yo-ho-ho-ho, yo-ho-ho-ho. Yo-ho-ho-ho, yo-ho-ho-ho. Yo-ho-ho-ho, yo-ho-ho-ho. Yo-ho-ho-ho, yo-ho-ho-ho. Gather up all of the crew. It's time to ship out Binks Brew. Sea wind blows. To where? Who knows? The waves will be our guide. Or across the ocean's tide. Rays of sunshine far and wide. Birds they sing of cheerful things, in circles passing by. Dorothy's normally stoic face let out a tiny, invisible smile while Maytel gently closed her eyes, continuing the melody. Bid farewell to Weaver's Town. Say so long to Port Renowned. Sing a song, it won't be long, before we're casting off. Cross the gold and silver seas. The salty spray puts us at ease. Day and night to our delight. The voyage never ends. Makoto and Yato slung their arms around each other and began kicking their feet in rhythm while Kahaku and Rebecca swung their arms back and forth cheerfully. Pilar laughed as he raised a mug of ale into the air with a cheer. Gather up all of the crew. It's time to ship out Binks Brew. Pirates we eternally are challenging the sea. With the waves to rest our heads. Ship beneath us is our beds. Hoisted high upon the mast our Jolly Roger flies. Somewhere in the endless sky. Stormy winds are blowing by. Waves are dancing, evening comes. It's time to sound the drums. But steady men may never fear. Tomorrow's skies are always clear. So pound your feet and clap your hands till sunny days return. Yo-ho-ho-ho, yo-ho-ho-ho. Yo-ho-ho-ho, yo-ho-ho-ho. Yo-ho-ho-ho, yo-ho-ho-ho. Yo-ho-ho-ho, yo-ho-ho-ho. Izuku tapped his foot, nodding his head and smiling at the joyful singing of his friends before singing a few of the lyrics himself. Gather up all of the crew. It's time to ship out Binks Brew. Wave goodbye, but don't you cry. Our memories remain. Our days are but a passing dream, everlasting though they seem. Beneath the moon we'll meet again, the wind's our lullaby. He then wiped away his tears and smiled, opening his arms for a group hug that the others happily gave. Gather up all of the crew. It's time to ship out Binks Brew. Sing a song and play along. For all the oceans wide. After all is said and done, you'll end up a skeleton. So spread your tail from dawn till dusk upon these foamy seas. Yo-ho-ho-ho, yo-ho-ho-ho. Yo-ho-ho-ho, yo-ho-ho-ho. Yo-ho-ho-ho, yo-ho-ho-ho. Yo-ho-ho-ho, yo-ho-ho-ho. Devil. It took 4 days of sailing for Izuku's crew to reach Japan. Izuku smiled as he recognized the city before him, but frowned when he saw the trash built up on Dagoba Municipal Beach. This wasn't here when I left. What have people been doing since I was gone? He asked himself as he slid down the crow's nest. This beach leaves something to be desired. Sumiko noted, wrinkling her nose in disgust. Dimin. The hell have people been doing since we've been away? Pilar gawked. If I'd known this would greet us, I'd have stayed on Egghead. Rebecca frowned. This is indeed an unpleasant sight. Clearly, people have not been recycling. Chikara added. You said it. Marco muttered, Click letting out a disgusted chirp. After docking their ship and planning to clean up the whole darn beach and make it look presentable, Izuka headed to a nearby bank to get money for his crew to accommodate themselves. Are you saying you'd like to open a new bank account? The manager asked. Izuku nodded in affirmation before pulling out 9 different gemstones that Shaki had left him in case of something like this. A diamond, a pearl, a ruby, an emerald, a yellow sapphire, a cat's eye, a blue sapphire, a coral, and a hessonite garnet. He also brought out 12 gold bars. How did you find these? The manager asked in amazement. They were all gifts a friend gave me for a situation like this. Izuku smiled. So, how much will that be in the account? The manager had to take some time to count everything up before showing how much money Izuku gained because of his donations. The boy's eyes widened in amazement at how many zeros he was seeing before smiling and nodding. Thank you very much, sir. The manager nodded. No, thank you. Devil. Keep going, Kanzuya. Sumiko cheered. This feels rather basic, Kanzuya noted. Right now, Kanzuya was no longer the shy-looking skinny boy he was before. Now, he was much taller and more muscular, his body rivaling All Might himself in size and muscle. This was thanks to his lineage factor inheriting sunshine, the power of the lion sin of pride, Escaner. Currently, Kanzuya was pulling a large fridge with a rope using just one hand while Sumiko rode on it. Heave-ho, heave-ho, heave-ho. Shun huffed and puffed as he pulled a TV along the beach. You children are making steady progress, Dorothy noted. That's 75% of the beach clean and it's only the afternoon. Izuku arrived back to see his friends were all working together and cleaning up the beach. Hibiki and Rebecca worked to haul a broken safe to the garbage truck that had been called in. Correction, 80% now. Hey guys, I managed to get us a bank account with some of the treasure Mrs. Shaki gave us before we left. Izuku smiled, handing each of them a debit card. When this beach is all cleaned up, we're making this our home. Yeah, I doubt any home in the big city can contain us. Yato chuckled as he was working on the ship's grill, cooking lunch for everyone. Smells good, fine. Kahaku beamed, sniffing what the Seraphim of Greed was cooking up. We've all been working pretty hard today. Let's take a break and grab some grub. Makoto suggested with a smile as everyone did just that. Maytel even brought out some drinks for the kids to enjoy. Devil. 2 weeks had passed, and Dagoba Municipal Beach had become resort-worthy again. Dorothy and Maytel had managed to get in touch with a construction company that was in desperate need of work called Uraraka Construction. The family was grateful to be given work to do and even more grateful for the hefty payment they were given afterward. As for Pilar, he had made contact with a rather sleazy yet affable fellow named Jiren, who was more than happy to provide certain goods and services if anybody needed them. Izuku and Sumiko had gone out to get groceries together, as it had quickly become clear that they were the best to do so. Chikara had already gotten in trouble for floating 3 times with people confusing it for a quirk. Koka tended to be a little over-emotional and touchy. Shun made cashiers and clerks cry with his bluntness, and depending on the time of day when it happened, Kanzuya would pummel anyone who so much as looked at Sumiko or take too long due to his inherent kindness. And the last time the gang trusted Yato and Makoto? 4 days ago. Yato, did you read the map wrong? Makoto asked, the two of them somehow ending up in Kamino Ward. A loud burp filled the air. There on the ground lay Yato, empty grocery bags around him and food smeared all over his mouth and now comically sized belly. Meoku, we're out of food. All of it? That was a month's worth. And some of it was frozen and for cleaning. No worries, Maki. We're rich. Yato, suddenly thin and on his feet, smirked. Thank Horikoshi, Oda and Nakaba we are. Present day. As they were walking home, they went under a street pass near the river. As they were leaving, a gurgling noise caught their attention. Turning around, they saw a man made of dark green sludge rising behind them. A couple of good-looking meat suits. Hold still, Brets. I just need one of your bodies. Oh hell no. Izuku said as the sludge man lunged out tentacles of his body to try and grab him, but he casually dodged them all thanks in part to his observation haki. How the hell are you dodging so fast? The sludge man snapped before turning to Hibiki. Fine, I'll just take the speech then. Sorry, but I'm not in the mood for this. Sumiko scowled as she lifted up a finger. Endless whirl. Before the sludge villain could react, he was scooped up in a giant sphere of wind, unable to stay in a consistent shape as the wind spun him around. We should find something to contain him and send him over to the nearest police station, Sumiko suggested, Izuku nodding as he prepared to find something to put the sludge villain in when the nearby manhole cover was suddenly blasted off of where it was. And a hero Izuku was very familiar with even after all these years leaped out. There's no need to fear, for I am. I guess I'm somehow late. All Might. Izuku gawked in disbelief, his fanboy side unearthing itself to gaze in revered splendor. Whoa, so that's what he looks like. Sumiko muttered. I was chasing this villain, but apparently you've incapacitated him. How did you even manage it exactly? Just a little magic trick. Sumiko smiled. I'm not gonna get in trouble for keeping that creep off me and Izuku's backs, right? Well, I can let this slide. After all, even though it's illegal to use quirks all willy-nilly, it's perfectly fine as long as it's in self-defense or in the aid of another. All Might noted as he took an empty soda bottle and stuffed the sludge villain in it. Anyway, I'm off to put this in a wall somewhere where he can't harm anyone else. Have a good day. With that, the symbol of peace leaped off. As he watched his hero leave, Izuku suddenly realized something very important. I forgot to ask for his autograph. That's what you're worried about? Sumiko asked with a raised brow. Devil. While Izuku and Sumiko had been getting groceries and meeting the boy's idol, Marco, Rebecca, and the rest of the Seraphim had decided to walk around, just touring the town. Marco was by far the most interested in the city, the others cheekily explaining things to him, explaining to any passers-by that he was a foreign exchange student from a third-world country. I mean, he really kind of is. Rebecca noted. Nah, I'd say Spherus Magna is a mix of Egghead and a nature park on planetary scale. Chikara argued. Hey, look. Marco beamed, pointing to a sign. A sign that Sumiko smiled at when she saw it. Well, we've been exploring all day, she mused. How about we take a break and try out the hot springs? Yes, please. Kahaku beamed, Shun shrugging while Makoto and Kanzuya smiled in excitement. Suddenly, a strange whispering sound echoed through the walls. The group got on guard as they slowly began to make out what the sound was. It sounded like Dot singing. Is it a ghost? Kahaku squeaked fearfully. Click's getting some bad vibes here. Marco noted, holding his companion close as Click shivered fearfully. Hold on, I know that song. Yato put a hand to his ear. Yeah, that's Bink's Brew. Wow, this ghost has good taste in music, Shun noted calmly. Don't even joke like that, Shun. Kahaku cried. The seven looked around, wondering where the melody was coming from until Rebecca spotted something. What the hell? It was a humanoid figure making its way through the water toward the seven. Kahaku shrieked and hid behind Rebecca, which was hilarious given their size difference, while the others prepared to fight until they got a better look at the figure. They had white hair with a black undercut, pink eyes, and black and white skin with skeletal-like markings. There was a pink shape in the middle of their chest shaped like a heart, and their nails were a matching pink. Oh, hello there. They greeted in a friendly tone. Thanks for stopping by. It gets a bit lonely around here, mostly because people tend to think the place is haunted. Whoa, who are you? Yato exclaimed. Are you some kind of Grim Reaper? Well, I'll be a monkey's uncle. Chikara muttered. Pleasure to meet you. Milo Bellida, they-them pronouns if you please. The being said in a friendly tone before noticing Rebecca and Kahaku and smiling flirtatiously. Well. The Reaper approached the two girls, Rebecca arching an eyebrow while Kahaku still looked nervous. Would you perhaps be so kind as to show me your panties? Yeah, right. Rebecca shouted as she delivered a punch to the Reaper's face, sending them dunking straight into the water. He feisty. They laughed as they resurfaced. Sorry about that, but I just can't help but admire such beautiful women. Apologies for sounding rude. And maybe don't introduce yourself with that. Kahaku said, blushing slightly. Makoto simply walked over and bowed in reverence to Milo, a fellow being of culture. Thank you. Milo smirked before motioning the others to join them for a soak. 3 hours later. Oh wow, we needed this. Yato smiled as the boys dried off. Well, Chikara, Makoto and Kanzuya did. Marco just willed himself dry as the girls finished up their soak. And speaking of whom, Kanzuya noted something. Where is Makoto? The shortest seraphim had doubled back to look for Milo, finding them humming Binks Brew, but now with a sadder tone in their voice. You okay? Makoto asked, startling Milo, although they played it cool. Oh, Makoto. Yeah, cool. Makoto was not fooled. Listen, thanks for coming by. Milo said, that gets lonely here. Well then, why not come with us? Makoto asked. Milo froze in place. With you? They asked. Yeah. Makoto smiled. We got scads of room. Our buddy Izuku would love to listen to your story and figure out your meta ability. Dorothy and Mateo could use a break from us. Makoto slyly showed Milo a picture of the two female androids, getting their attention. And to be honest, it'd be nice to have a fellow connoisseur of culture live on a beach, meaning we'll see plenty of beautiful ladies. Heck to the yes. Milo cheered, suddenly breaking into cartoonish speed to grab their belongings packed up into a suitcase. We've got a lot of explaining to do when we get back. Chikara said, shaking his head. Tell me about it, Chumba. Rebecca sighed. Katsuki Bakugo was 4 years old when he learned not all men are created equal. He had recently heard from his parents that Izuku, his best friend, was quirkless. Due to having manifested his own quirk, explosion, very recently, Katsuki just brushed Izuku off as hopeless and even occasionally mocked him for still trying to be a hero. That all changed when Auntie Inko and Uncle Sashi came home from a cruise that had ended up in the wrong end of a villain attack. And Deku wasn't with them. Katsuki had learned that Izuku had risked his life to save someone and they had both been lost at sea as a result. This made the blonde rethink his entire philosophy. He may have looked down on Izuku for lacking a quirk, but he never wished him dead. Search parties went out to try and find Izuku, but no leads were made and the case was sadly closed. The grief Inko and Hisashi showed made Katsuki strive to become something to be proud of, the kind of hero Deku would have been. He would get his chance when, on his 8th birthday, he saw an old man being attacked by a villain. The blonde had rushed in without thinking and hit the villain with his strongest explosion. Of course, it turned out that the old man had everything under control. He was a retired fighter and hadn't dulled his skills in age. But he appreciated the sentiment as he finished off the villain. The man in question was renowned overseas chef and martial artist, Red Leg Zeph. Impressed by Katsuki's courage, Zeph took him on as an apprentice, training him in his ways. He also helped Katsuki out with developing his cooking skills, which he already had impressive displays of even back then. Then, just after his 11th birthday, Katsuki would get another surprise that'd change his life. Devil. The 11-year-old Katsuki Bakugo was relaxing in bed. He was gazing out the dark evening sky as the stars began to appear. Deku, I know in my gut you're not dead. Where the hell are you right now? Suddenly, one star began glowing brighter than normal and seemed to be growing larger. Katsuki got out of bed to see what was going on. Before quickly realizing the star was coming closer. Sheet. Jumping out of the way just in time, Katsuki took cover as the star crashed into his room. Surprisingly, as the dust began to clear, it didn't seem like much was damaged. Katsuki waved the smoke away as he growled, prepared to give whatever or whoever this was a piece of his mind. But only for his brain to short-circuit the minute he saw a girl standing up from where the star impacted. A naked girl. Horikoshi, Oda, and Toriyama. Put some clothes on. The girl had a petite figure, short bright pink hair, rosy cheeks, and dark blue eyes that seemed to shine like the night sky. She was seemingly confused by Katsuki's flustered reaction, not even seeming to notice or care that she was indecent. Oi, what the hell is going? Mitsuki snapped as she barged in, only to be met with the naked girl in front of her and Katsuki looking at his mother with a face that screamed, I'm just as FING confused as you are. Poyo! The girl beamed. Devil. The girl's name turned out to be Kirby and apparently, she was an alien from beyond the stars who had crash-landed on Earth to escape the destruction of her home planet. Rather similar to a certain Man of Steel, but it still checked out. With nowhere to go, Kirby was taken in by the P family, going under the surname of Sakurai. She and Katsuki, after the awkward first meeting they had, managed to hit it off quite well, and soon, they found themselves as boyfriend and girlfriend. Right now, Katsuki was 14 years old and in his last few months of school at Aldra Junior High, aka the worst FING school in Japan. Thank God that Kirby had transferred there to keep him company. There was only so much butt-kissing he could take from the coat-riding extras. Alright, you brats, this is your last year of school and you'll be graduating soon, the homeroom teacher said. Now, I'd hand out these forms of what occupations you'd want, but let's face it, you all want to be heroes. Katsuki just scoffed as the extras showed off their basic beach quirks. Kirby was just snoring away, having already had her lunch in class as well. God, Katsuki loved how that girl defied the rules while still being so perky and innocent. Don't bother lumping me and my girl in with these extras. Their quirks couldn't even get them jobs as a sidekick for some D-lister. While he had learned some humility and empathy, especially with Zeph as his mentor, Katsuki was still brash, cocky, and hot-tempered. Naturally, this set off everyone in the class. Echui, we have potential too. Shut the F up, all of you. Katsuki snapped. I made a promise to myself that I'd be the kind of hero who would be there for others. The kind of hero who always put others before himself. Just like Deku wanted. That Midoriya kid? Wasn't he quirkless or something? I heard he died on that cruise incident 10 years ago. Meh, one less powerless loser, don't you think? Everyone immediately scooted away from the last person who spoke, who quickly realized what he said and paled as Katsuki loomed over him, a look of murderous rage on his face. The F you say? Aye. That DMN nerd gave his life to save someone else. Which of you fuckers can say the same? Tell me. All was silent. The offending student looked like he had just said himself. Katsuki waited a moment before huffing as he sat back down at his desk, kicking his feet back up. That's what I FNG thought. Only me and Kirby are becoming heroes in this shitty class, and that's all there is to it. Tests, please. Kirby beamed innocently. Devil. After school, Katsuki and Kirby were walking back home together. The pink-haired girl happily skipping alongside her boyfriend while humming a merry song, while the ashen-blonde boy merely kept his usual scowl to ward off anybody who would try and bother him and his girlfriend. Say, Kachin? Kirby asked. I know that you don't do speeches about sappy stuff, but... She paused, trying to find the words. Izuku meant a lot to you, right? Katsuki paused mid-stride and shuddered, fighting back tears. He was my friend. My only real friend. Before me? Kirby asked, trying to alleviate the mood, which she did judging by the light chuckle her boyfriend made. Well, you're way more than a friend. Katsuki smirked, before the memories returned. I always thought he was annoying, following me around, praising me, and when I fell once and he tried to help. You thought he was pitying you when he was just that nice? Kirby guessed. Katsuki sighed and nodded. And when he died saving someone on that cruise, it made me think, holy shit, I'm a shitty person. I was going to become a hero just to prove I was the best, while he suited wanted to help people. And he did without any kind of quirk. Kirby hugged the explosive blonde, patting his head to see. Suddenly, a ringing alerted Katsuki as he took out his phone and checked to see it was a message from his mom, and what he read made his eyes widen in absolute shock and disbelief. What does it say? Kirby asked, looking over her boyfriend's shoulder to read the message. Come quick. Izuku's alive. He's home. Devil. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the city, a young woman was relaxing by herself, just enjoying the day as she left school. Ah, what a relief. School today was murder. The girl's name was Hilda Tokatoya. She was a tall, slender young lady with long dark brown hair in a ponytail and blue eyes. She wore a white and pink hat, a white tank shirt that reached her waist underneath a black waistcoat, and a pair of denim shorts with white tear details on them. She wore black wristbands with a small pink stripe on both of them, matching black ankle boots with pink laces and soles, and a pair of black socks underneath. She also carried a pink messenger bag around. Hilda was a spunky, tough girl who was always ready for any challenge thrown her way. She was fearless and competitive as they came, but also compassionate and friendly. "Hey, Hilda." The girl beamed and turned to see her best friends. The first was a tall, lanky, and unassuming young man with pale skin, curly and unkempt black hair, and a pair of glasses covering hazelnut eyes. The other was a girl with very long dark brown hair tied in 2 large sock buns above her ears, with 2 long locks hanging loose to her waist, shorter locks on either side of her face, pale peach skin, and dark blue eyes. She wore a pink and white visor on her head, as well as a salmon pink tank top tied with a bow around her neck like a bikini top under a white quarter-length slim-fit top with ice blue sleeves and a fully salmon pink semi-poke ball printed on the chest area. On her bottom half, she wore frilly flared mustard yellow shorts over black lycra leggings with salmon pink socks. Her high-top shoes were ice blue and white with mustard yellow laces. The boy's name was Binio Torakuroshi, a rather shy and awkward boy who was also a childhood friend of Hilda. He always seemed to be off in his own little world at times and never seemed to pay attention in class, yet managed to do very decently all the same. Hilda often suspected that he might be a night owl. The girl was Rosa Meihei. She was energetic, adventurous, compassionate, and tended to be a bit slow on the uptake. However, Hilda couldn't ask for a better friend than her. "Bianca and Sharon are wondering if you're still up to go to the arcade tomorrow after school," Ben said as Hilda beamed, slinging an arm over his shoulder. "Sounds like a blast. I'm sure we'll have lots of fun. Yeah, maybe I'll finally beat Sharon's DDR high score," Rosa added. Suddenly, the sound of something crashing alerted both teens as they ran to the source. There, they saw an 8-foot-tall bald man with teal skin and 12 arms. 3 on his left, 3 on his right, and 6 on his back. "Holy crap, isn't that Gus the Ogre?" Hilda exclaimed in shock, recognizing the B-rank villain. "Crap, that guy's been rising in the villain ranks recently," Ben said. "Guys, we gotta alert the authorities. Help." It was then that the 2 friends noticed that Gus had a family trapped in his arms. A couple of pro-heroes were nearby, but they couldn't risk making a move lest it give the villain incentive to kill the family. "Nobody here try anything funny or I'll kill this family." Hilda didn't know what happened. It was as if her legs moved on their own as soon as she saw the family had a scared little child. Ben saw this and looked back and forth before running into a nearby alley, quickly taking off his backpack and pulling something out. Back with Hilda, she picked up a rock and threw it at Gus with the pitching strength of a professional baseball player. The rock hit Gus right in the face, making him scream and let go of the family. Rosa rushed in, taking the opportunity to help guide the family to safety as the pro-heroes used the opportunity to jump him. Unfortunately, the multi-armed villain was now set off and used 4 of his arms to knock the pros away as easily as swatting some insects. He then glared at Hilda as she got on guard, making a "come on" gesture. Rosa also turned around and smacked her behind while pulling her eyelid down and sticking out her tongue. "You have beach. I'll kill you." The people witnessing the action watched in shock as Gus charged at Hilda and Rosa like a freight train before unleashing a barrage of punches with all his arms. Gus grinned, madly lost in his rage and bloodlust as blood splatters entered his vision as he rained down a volley of fists with such force it raised a dust cloud around him and Hilda. Finally, after what seemed like hours but was only 5 minutes, the barrage ended. The agonizing scream of pain entered everyone's ears. Only, it didn't come from either of the girls. Gus didn't know what happened. As he was calming himself down, he was confident he had just annihilated the little beaches when all of a sudden he felt an agonizing pain in all of his 12 hands. He was able to hold in the scream as he looked at his hands to see if they had been somehow broken. But as he looked down at his hands, his eyes widened in horror as he looked at the bloody, gushing stomps, and this time, he couldn't hold in his scream. Really? Trying to kill a family and then hurt a girl? Not impressed. Gus saw that a hooded man in all black had jumped in front of Hilda and Rosa to protect them, and his eyes widened. He had heard stories of this man, a man who robbed quirks from criminals, abusers, and other malicious kinds of people and gave to the less fortunate. He was like a Robin Hood for quirks and was known by only one name: the Quirk Judge. As Gus fell on his butt and backed away, Hilda huffed as she put her hands on her hips. The quirk judge had jumped in front of her and used a quirk that covered himself in unbreakable and sharpened diamonds. You know I had him, right? Yeah, Hilda could have taken him. Rosa pouted. Didn't look like it from where I was standing. Hilda rolled her eyes but popped her neck from side to side and grinned. Can I at least kick this creep where the sun doesn't shine? The quirk judge couldn't show his face through the black mask that only had 2 red glaring eye holes, but Hilda could easily tell he was grinning as he nodded. Be my guest. Grinning, Hilda ran toward Gus and reared her leg back before kicking him square in the nuts, making his eyes bug out before his cheeks bulged. He then spat out a large iron ball that fell in front of his groin as he fell over and didn't get back up, foaming at the mouth. That hurt to even watch. One of the pro heroes winced as he recovered from the blow Gus had given him. And it's live. Rosa grinned, having recorded the scene on her phone. Hey, it's that vigilante. Stop right there. The other pro hero said as he noticed the quirk judge, who simply snapped his fingers and turned into dark mist, which disappeared soon after. Hilda sighed as the police arrived to detain the crippled and neutered Gus, hauling him away in a prison ambulance. She looked to the nearby rooftops to see the quirk judge staring at her and nodding his head before leaving the scene. She and Rosa knew the true identity of the quirk judge. It was a closely guarded secret shared between the 3 of them. Come on, Rosa. Let's go to my place. Hilda said. Mom's cooking steak tonight. Goody. As the 2 friends left, they didn't know a certain skeletal blonde man had been watching everything unfold. Those girls rushed in. To save that family at the risk of her own life. Yes, I think I have a feeling one of them is the one. Devil. The quirk judge had managed to escape to Hilda's house, where he climbed in through the window before removing his clothes and putting them back into the backpack. As it turns out, he was none other than Ben. Good thing I was there. Hilda's got a good quirk to combat any serious injuries, but she knows I can't take any chances. Rosa's quirk is good too, but still. After getting dressed back in his regular clothes, Ben headed downstairs to greet Hilda's mother, who smiled as she was cooking dinner. Oh, good afternoon, sweetie. Hey, Mrs. Tukatoya. As if right on cue, Hilda and Rosa came in as well. Her mother quickly ran over to check up on her, a fraught look on her face. Hilda, sweetie. Thank heavens. I saw the news that you challenged a villain by yourself. If that vigilante hadn't been there. Mom, it's cool. I had it all under control. Hilda groaned. Besides, that creep couldn't have been able to kill me even if he wanted to. Hilda's mother just sighed, knowing her daughter was referring to her quirk, optimal condition. They had first learned of the quirk when Hilda was very young, having fallen out of a tree and landed on her head. However, while she did feel pain, there was no skull fracture detected despite the high impact. The quirk doctor immediately got to work and soon came back with the results. Hilda's quirk allowed her to stay in a permanent optimal state of being. This meant that anything that would detriment her person, such as injuries both external and internal, would immediately heal themselves. It wasn't just injuries either, as illnesses, temporary ailments, anything that could cause harm to the body would be undone in seconds. Yeah. And I could have backed Hilda up too. Rosa added. Rosa's own quirk was absorption, which allowed her to absorb and take on the properties of any kind of matter or energy she came into contact with. She could even shapeshift when in a matter-absorbed state. Well, right, but you can't blame a mother for worrying, all right? Hilda smiled and hugged her mom as Rosa happily jumped in to hug them both. Ben shyly joined in as well, and the 3 were happy to allow him in. A knock on the door broke the tender moment as Ben went to answer it. As soon as he opened the door, he gawked when he saw a certain symbol of peace standing in front of him. I am here to have an important discussion. All Might. The #1 pro hero of Japan just gave a hearty laugh, as if he had expected this sort of reaction. What brings you here, Mr. All Might, sir? Ms. Tukatoya nervously asked, just as freaked out as her daughter and her best friends. I would like to speak with your daughter in private if you please. Emmy? Did I do something wrong? Not at all. In fact, I'd like to say I am impressed by what you did today. Not following. All Might just put a hand on Hilda's shoulder, his proud smile never wavering. He just seemed to radiate an aura of calm and trust that Hilda immediately relaxed. I was in the area when I saw Gus the ogre holding that family hostage. I was just about to intervene when I noticed you and your friend rushing in and distracting that villain so that the family could escape. Yeah, it was all a blur, I guess. Thank God the quirk judge was there to help. Rosa admitted. All Might nodded. He had heard tales about the quirk judge and understandably had doubts about him, especially since his abilities seemed far too similar to that man. However, what he had heard and now just seen helped ease those doubts. I see, that just makes things easier for me. Hilda Tuco, because you have proven you have the heart of a hero, I have an offer I'd like to make, and I don't make it to just anybody. What do you have in mind? Hilda asked, a little excited now. Was she gonna get a recommendation to any hero school she wanted? I would like you to... Suddenly, much to Hilda, her mother, Rosa, and Ben's shock, All Might exploded into a cloud of smoke, blood spraying out of his mouth. His entire body had just changed in an instant. Instead of a mountain of muscles, he was now a sickly, gangly-looking man who was almost like a skeleton. His eyes were sunken, but the electric blue irises could still be seen somewhat. And now Hilda, Rosa, and Ben began freaking out again. Ms. Tukatoya had already fainted dead away from shock. What the dash? How dash? Why dash? I have so many questions. All Might sighed. Suppose I should start with the obvious, huh? The skeletal man lifted his shirt, which now looked way too big for him, as the teens winced at a large scar running across the whole left side of his stomach and torso. Ugly, isn't it? I got this 5 years ago facing a dangerous villain. It had my guts spilling out all over it and everything. He put his shirt back down. Luckily, I had a good friend heal up the worst of it, but now I can only be a hero for 5 to 6 hours at a time. What kind of villain was powerful enough to damage you that badly? Ben asked. This villain was only known to me and the people I trust with my life. Even among the higher echelons of the government, the Heroics Committee, and even the SCP Foundation, it's a closely guarded secret. To have your guts hanging loose and still able to win against whatever horrifically powerful villain you were fighting, that must have been something, Hilda noted. Yes, I thankfully had help from Ambrosia and Depestilis. Thanks to their powerful healing quirks, I got most of the damage repaired. Still, it was not without its toll, as I've already explained. So, what did you even want to tell us about? Ben asked. Well, when I saw young Hilda risking her life to save that family, I knew immediately she was the one. The one for what? To inherit my power, of course. Wait, what? You can have people inherit your quirk? All Might chuckled. You jumped into action while the rest of us stood idly by. You acted like a true hero out there, a rare attribute in our current society. So, how does this even work? What even is your quirk? Hilda asked. You've always kinda dodged the question during interviews. Because, my girl, like the villain who gave me my injury, my quirk is also a well-guarded secret. You see that I was born quirkless. My power was given to me by another. It is a power that has been cultivated since the dawn of quirks, growing stronger with each new user. All Might then held his hand out, a glowing light emitting from it as. Hilda and Ben stared in wonder. The name of this power, the ultimate quirk. Is one for all. One for all. Hilda, Rosa, and Ben all whispered in awe. I have been looking for a successor for quite some time now. Even I am not immortal, and I will one day dip out of the hero scene. When that time comes, I will need someone who is ready to take the mantle. All Might explained. But I must warn you, if you choose to accept this, a great gift and a terrible burden will be placed upon you. The three teens looked at each other worriedly, but then their eyes steeled as determination came to the former, turning her head to face the skeletal symbol of peace. I always wanted to be a badass hero, especially since my quirk makes me practically invincible. So if this quirk can help me go even further beyond, let's do it. No hesitation. Heh, you remind me of myself when I was your age. All Might smiled. However, with how much power One for All has accumulated, it could very well risk tearing your body apart if you don't know how to properly HR and assess it. No problem. Hilda smiled reassuringly. My quirk, optimal condition, will fix up anything that's broken. All Might was confused until both Hilda and Ben explained the former's quirk to him. After they were done, he was left quite surprised. That is certainly an amazing quirk. It could very easily mesh well with One for All. All Might smiled. I guess both of us lucked out here today, didn't we? You said it. Hilda laughed playfully. Still, I must warn you, invincible and unstoppable are two very different things. Just because you are unable to be hurt or killed doesn't mean you can't still be defeated, after all. Hilda nodded. I know. Mon, you're so lucky, Hilda. Rosa beamed. Devil. This was the one thing Izuku had dreaded the most since he returned home to Japan, that he was standing in front of his family house. He at least was grateful that his friends had accompanied him to provide emotional support. Well, knock on the door, Kanzuya said. It's been 10 years. Izuku reminded them, half wanting to delay this but half wanting to get them to see how hard this was for him. Well, we aren't waiting. And neither should you. Kahaku huffed. What if they moved and this isn't? The green-haired boy started. Then we'll find them. Marco argued, annoyingly pointing to the door. Knock. With a sigh, Izuku did just that. After a tense few moments of waiting, the door opened, and there was no one. Huh. A cute voice cooed. They all looked down to see a little girl, no older than 6, looking up at them. Hi there. Is this where Inko and Hisashi Midoriya live? Izuku managed to ask. The little girl looked up at him, then took a deep breath, her eyes still focused on him before she quickly spun around. Hey mommy. There's a bunch of big kids at the door, and one of them looks like Daddy if he had your eyes and hair. Whoa, wait. What the heck? Izuku cried as he tried to stop the child, only to be greeted by 2 familiar faces. Kamiko! Please don't answer the door without. Izuku could only stare at his parents, who he hadn't seen in 10 long years. Inko had put on quite a bit of weight and Hisashi looked a bit more haggard, complete with a heavy amount of stubble on his face. Despite this, Izuku still recognized them all the same. Izuku. Hey mom, dad up in a long time. Devil. It had taken over 3 hours of crying between the Midoriyas before anybody could speak. Who knew their tear ducts were so powerful? Chikara asked in some amusement and much concern, as he and Sumiko used their meta abilities based on King and Merlin's disaster and Infinity to restore the water damage. Have you forgotten when our training started? Sumiko smiled at the family sweetly, then recalled the crybaby Izuku had been despite his determination. They have every right to sob, Kanzuya said, ending the conversation. It certainly moved my heart even though I technically don't have one, being a Grim Reaper. Milo giggled. Yato and Makoto lightly chuckled as well. Eventually recomposing themselves, Hisashi and Inko gave their son a rundown on what had happened after he and Hibiki went overboard. Selkie had searched for days before being ordered to pursue the world pirates, whom he successfully caught. Sanwan Wolf was still at large to this day, literally and figuratively, but his bounty had been increased by 300,000 yen for the death of Izuku. Aside from the Bakuga family, nobody else had given Izuku much thought, some even suggesting Inko and Hisashi try and have a kid who had a quirk. And long story short, I got fired after hearing that one too many times, Hisashi admitted with a chuckle. Honey, you punched your coworker so hard that he's still eating through a straw. Inko clarified. I don't care. Yup, you're Izuku's dad, alright, Yato smirked. Honestly, I'd have done the same. He was a meanie and he got hurt. Kamiko beamed, once again hugging her big brother. Kachin talked about you a lot, Izumi. He missed you. Izuku smiled and returned the hug. Already, he had come to bond with the little sister he had only just gotten to know. And about 5 years ago, Kamiko here came along, Inko admitted. She was a surprise, but one I think we needed and adore. No kidding, how can one little girl be so freaking adorable? Kahaku asked. Suddenly, a large explosion and the sound of a door being ripped off its hinges were heard, startling everyone before an angry voice roared out. Where is he? Where the F is he? Everyone jumped when the front door was blasted down and turned to see a young man with spiky ash blonde hair, crimson eyes, and smoke steaming off his hands. "Katsuki, you brat. We told you not to do that anymore." Mitsuki's voice was heard as the boy paid her no mind before looking Izuku dead in the eye. "Kachin!" Kamiko greeted happily, running to hug the blonde boy, only to pause when she realized he was paying her no mind. "Kachin dash?" Izuku started, but he couldn't even finish his sentence when Katsuki suddenly kicked him square in the face, sending him flying into the wall. Izuku's friends all prepared for a fight before Izuku suddenly rushed forward, having instantly recovered from the blow and headbutt his old friend in the stomach. "Is that any way to greet a friend you haven't seen in forever?" Izuku smirked, even wiping his lip. That kick had felt like one of Kahaku's regular hits. "F you shitty dude," Katsuki snapped. "You don't go disappearing for 10 straight F years. And then come back not expecting that." The two boys glared at each other before tears began welling up in their eyes, followed by them hugging each other. "I missed you." They managed. "I missed you more." "Is that Kachin's friend?" A girl with pink hair asked as Mitsuki and Masaru came in after Katsuki. "Yes, Kirby. That's him," Masaru said, taking off his glasses to clear the budding tears of joy from his eyes. What are we? Invisible?" Shun asked bluntly as Makoto elbowed him. "Let them have this moment, man. Read the room, Shun." Kahaku hissed through her teeth. Izuku took the time to introduce his friends and Katsuki in return introduced Kirby to Izuku. Needless to say, Izuku was quite surprised by this. "How the hell did you manage to get a girlfriend, Kachin? Would you believe me that she fell from outer space and could only say, Poyo, for the first couple of weeks she lived with us? Thank goodness she's shown to be such a fast learner." Mitsuki laughed, ruffling Kirby's head as she smiled. "Not to mention her appetite. She put me and Inko to work, but it's a good thing she was such a good big sis to little Kamiko." Devil. Everyone had sat down for lunch while Yato and Katsuki found themselves getting into an epic cooking contest to see who could cook better. "Eat sheet ban hands. I've learned the best from Red Leg Zeph himself. Well, let's see if passed down knowledge can beat self-taught knowledge." When the two boys were finished, they presented their dishes to everyone. Katsuki had made African ramen while Yato had cooked up hard crab with fried beach rice. "Yummy!" Kamiko mewled happily as she tried both dishes, which only radiated an aura of cuteness toward everyone. "Well, I'd say both of you boys are plenty talented." Inko giggled. "You know, Rayleigh told me about Zeph. They met a few times back in the day." Izuku said as he helped himself to both dishes as well. "Heh, these hands are made for exploding stuff with my quirk, but Zeph taught me how to work with my legs as well," Katsuki smirked proudly. All in all, everyone had a wonderful time, the mood of the Midoriya household having finally lifted after so long without their son. And he and his friends still had many stories to tell them. "Well, I certainly wasn't expecting this." All Might was quite surprised to see that Dagoba Municipal Beach, which he had intended to be a sort of training ground for Hilda to build up her body for the power of one for all, was completely spotless. What's more, there seemed to be a large pirate ship of some kind along with a nice-looking summer house. "Whoever cleaned up this beach certainly knows what they're doing," Hilda said. "Do you have any other plans for how Hilda can get your quirk?" Ben asked Toshinori as the skeletal man rubbed the back of his head, trying to think of something. "Excuse me." The three turned to see a beautiful woman with long golden blonde hair dressed in a black fur coat with an astrakhan hat of the same color. "I am Maytel, housekeeper of the residence, you see. If you'd follow me, the children will be happy and able to answer all questions." The group wandered inside and found Izuku, Marco, Milo, and the Seraphim working out. What stood out was that the weights were the size and weight of small cars. New. Life goals. Unlocked. Hilda beamed. "I don't want to get on their bad sides." Ben whistled. "Whoa!" Rosa's eyes sparkled as she saw Rebecca tinkering with her cybernetics. "She's a cyborg? Oh hey! Welcome to our humble base of operations." Yato greeted as he put his weights down. "Apologies for our intrusion, but we kinda thought this beach was still a massive dump," Ben said. "See, Our teacher here had hoped we could clean it up to help train for the entrance exam, but that's not an option anymore, it seems. Well, come on in and don't worry. Izuku smiled reassuringly. We'll be glad to help out. We have plenty of things to build up muscle. Yeah, especially if it's All Might. Shun said, pointing to Tashinori. All activity in the area paused, everyone literally in mid-stride. Wait, what? Izuku flatly asked. Yeah, that guy, he's All Might. Shun said as if it was obvious. Welp, might as well. Tashinori shrugged, bulking up. I am here. And just like that, the dam broke for Izuku. Can I have your autograph? Izuku, eyes gleaming, begged desperately. I didn't get it when you came to apprehend that sludge villain the other day. How did he know he was All Might? Ben nervously asked. My meta ability, invasion, Shun said. Shun, we discussed this. Sumiko sighed. No invading people's minds. Unless they're a villain. In which case, go nuts. Chikara added, getting glares from the others. Hey, Izuku was the one who said it first. All Might froze at that name. Wait, Izuku? As in Izuku Midoriya? Izuku, feeling the pro's eyes on him, turned around shyly. Yes. No one was expecting the great hero to fall to his knees in a Dejiza position. Please forgive me. I tried to keep searching for you after Sanwan Wolf attacked your ship. But, after 3 weeks I was forced back to Japan and, no, that is no excuse. I do not expect your forgiveness. Izuku, though surprised at this, simply smiled as he gestured for his idol to stand up. The fact that you looked for 3 weeks when most gave up after 3 days? Proves you truly are the greatest hero of all. All Might couldn't help but smile gratefully, wiping the budding tears from his eyes. Well, all's well that ends well, I suppose, Ben said, nodding his head. Indeed. And do not worry, your secret is safe with us. Maytel said, pulling gently on Shun's ear. Right, Shun? Yes. The Seraphim of Lust sighed. The kids then talked amongst themselves, with Ben quickly bonding with Izuku, whose analysis he'd wished he'd had during his earlier Quirk Judge adventures, while the girls talked about some of the crazy misadventures they'd gone on. Say, may I see your panties? Milo asked with a smirk before being smacked upside the head by Sumiko. What have we told you about introducing yourself to girls like that? The Seraphim of Gluttony admonished. Milo, who had spun around from the force of the slap, simply struck a flamboyant pose. You can't get with these moves. Hilda and Rosa clapped at Milo's performance, the Reaper giving a bow. Dorothy made her was over to All Might and looked at his training plan. While I understand the rush, this is incredibly unhealthy and difficult. She mused. Not impossible, mind you. All Might lowered his head. Why is it? My apologies. I was something of a natural with my quirk, so I may have overthought this. Hilda, Rose, and Ben overlooked the schedule, and Ben at least started getting dizzy. Oh lordy, lordy, lord. He managed. Say, idea. Hilda snapped her fingers. What if I upped my weight? This took everyone for a loop, but also snapped Ben out of his dizzy spell. Well, my quirk does keep me in perfect physical health, but if I gained the weight of, say, a sumo wrestler, my quirk would have more to work with and one for all could blend in seamlessly. Right. A minute of silence covered the room. That could work. Izuku and All Might mused. Hilda, you genius. Rosa grinned. And if you're fattening up, then so am I. Wait, what dash? Ben shook his head in surprise. Are you serious? Are you sure you want to be doing that? The added bulk mixed with her quirk will help me handle one for all better. Hilda said as if it was the most obvious thing in the world as Rosa snuck behind the boy. That and we know about your BBW collection. Ben blushed but remained silent. Just as long as you're both packing on muscle as well, we'll be more than happy to help. Sumiko smirked as she walked over. Yato can cook up a mean feast just for you. But there's still so much to consider. Ben said. You'll be changing your bodies and dash. Ben, relax. Hilda said, putting a finger to his lips. My quirk will make sure I stay healthy enough, and besides, it's like Sumiko here said, we'll be putting on muscle as well. Well, as long as you have a clear goal in mind, Toshinori noted. Just be sure to balance things out, my girl. No problem, Omai. We've got everything under control. Rosa said, giving a salute. So, you like big girls, huh? Kawaii. Makoto chuckled, patting Ben on the back. Shut up. Been a while since I flexed my cooking muscles. Yato smirked. Bring it on. The training arc starts now. Heck yeah. Rosa cheered along with Kahaku and Rebecca. Devil. A few weeks after joining Izuku's crew in training, Hilda unwrapped the king-size chocolate bar and bit into it, savoring the sweet, milky taste while Rosa happily stuffed her face with donuts. Ben was skiing on a jawbreaker lollipop as he watched his best friends enjoy themselves. Not much progress has been made. Hey, this takes time, okay? Hilda laughed. It's not gonna happen instantaneously like in those cartoons. Even if we wish it could. Rosa added with a giggle. Ben rolled his eyes. True. Hey guys. Hearing the familiar voice, the two turned to see Izuku and Kahaku approaching them. Yo, what are you guys doing today? Hilda smiled. Just buying groceries. You'd be amazed at how much food we go through in a day alone. Kahaku giggled. Hey, better start buying extra. I might be getting some good eats there myself. Hilda, we shouldn't impose. Ben muttered, only to be elbowed in the side gently. Lighten up, then. If Rosa and I are gonna be ready to get one for all, I'm gonna need a lot more weight. We've got plenty of equipment for building up muscle too. Izuku pointed out. We'll have your ideal body in no time as long as you follow our lead. Alright, then let's do this. Hilda cheered as she took a hard bite of her chocolate. Devil. 3. Man, it's only been 2 months since we started and she's gained so much. Ben thought with a small blush as he and Hilda went out for ice cream, being joined by Katsuki and Kirby on a double date as the pink-haired girl liked to call it. I'd say I'm making some really good progress. Hilda said, licking her lips. Thanks to her constant binging, the once slim woman had swelled up quite a bit in the past 2 months. Her short shorts had ridden up, trying to contain the sizable layer of flab that was her stomach. It stuck out from the rest of her by nearly an entire foot, pushing out past her shirt and giving anyone around her a good look at the jiggling mass of chub. Of course, that wasn't to say the rest of her was lacking in growth. She'd gone up by at least 2 cup sizes since she'd started gaining, and her butt was looking much rounder than before. Laying beneath these bountiful buns were a set of thickened thighs, now double the size of their former selves. Even her arms seemed to have been affected, now sporting an entire layer of flab around themselves. Most women would be concerned about gaining this much weight, but Hilda couldn't care less. Honestly, Ben admired that about his best friend. She never let much bother her unless it was serious. It's mostly just fat right now, stay puffed. Katsuki pointed out. You gotta start putting in more work if you want to handle All Might's quirk. Katsuki and Kirby, being considered members of Izuku's crew since the former was his old childhood friend, had been let in on All Might's secret and thankfully had sworn themselves to secrecy, though Katsuki was still floored that All Might, whom he admired just as much as Izuku, had been left in such a weakened state. I know. Hilda laughed reassuringly. Trust me, you guys have been helping out a lot. But I gotta eat to make sure I'm balanced out. Just don't try overdoing it to the point that you're a huge FING blob. Katsuki snarked. Only Kirby's able to eat an entire country's worth of food and not gain a single pound from it. That's because my stomach is an entirely separate and endless dimension of reality. Hilda and Ben looked at the pink-haired girl from outer space as she said that. Only Katsuki wasn't fazed by her words, as if he already knew this. Really? Ben gawked. Yeah, when we were getting her registered and checked up to make her an official citizen in Japan, the doctors did some tests and her stomach is an honest goddamn black hole. Katsuki dryly clarified. So you never feel full. Hilda muttered. Talk about getting your money's worth at an all-you-can-eat buffet, though. Shame Rosa couldn't join us, but she wanted to gain weight in that ramen contest, Hibiki noted. Plus, she wanted the extra money to buy even more donuts. That girl loves donuts like Kirby loves everything, Katsuki smirked. Hey, it's not my fault all the food is so yummy. Devil. 5. It was a bright sunny day, perfect for Kazuya to channel the power of sunshine to help with training Hilda while Chikara and Toshinori stood watch as referees. Maytel and Dorothy were also there with water bottles handy. Rosa was acting as a cheerleader while Rebecca was just chugging a can of soda casually and Milo was recording the spar on there. Wow, Kazuya. You're pretty strong. The boy, currently in his giant muscular form, nodded his head with a prideful smile as the two locked hands. The heat his body was producing made Hilda sweat, but she persevered. Eventually, Kazuya managed to get the upper hand, and with a hard flex of his muscles, he managed to bring Hilda down. Guess I still have a long way to go, huh? She asked, chuckling to herself. And you shall? Kazuya said, a smirk on his face. Any friend and ally of our crew will come to reach a level close to us. Hilda smiled as she patted her belly. She was at least triple the size she'd first started at. Her body had grown, not just in weight, but in width, as if to accommodate her growth. Her stomach, which had already been round and flabby, had now expanded to become the largest part of her body. It stuck out nearly 3 feet and was now so large that it covered her crotch. Resting atop this enormous gut lay her biceps, which had undergone similar growths. No longer the flat size they'd once been, Hilda's bosom had blossomed into a beautiful rack. They were easily within the E-cup range by this point, and both were soft to the touch. It was safe to say that most of Hilda's weight had been distributed fairly evenly. Her breasts and belly were developing nicely, and her flabbier arms remained as firm and active as ever thanks to her training. But of the newfound additions brought on by her weight, her bottom half had easily changed the most. Hilda's butt was massive, now large enough that each cheek more resembled massive globes. Her round, enviably enormous rear was supported by a set of glorious, tree-trunk-sized thighs, made all the more obvious whenever she so much as took a step. It was safe to say that Hilda was getting to be the talk of the town with how much she was porking up, but she didn't mind that. Man, you're so soft and squishy but firm and tough too. Kirby giggled as she snuggled up to Hilda, who smiled as she took a bite out of some taiyaki. You're so cool, Hilda. Rosa smiled as she came over. Like Hilda, she had porked up by a wide margin as well. She was round as a ball now. Her belly had grown so much that her waist resembled a muffin top. Her face had also become softer and rounder. Suffice it to say, both ladies were quite large and lovely now. You kids have certainly been putting in the work, Toshinori noted. I know we still have a few more months to go before the UA entrance exam, but I feel like you're prepared to take the next step. Kazuya shrunk down to his normal skinny self as Hilda and Rosa looked excited. Izuku also took notice as he and the rest of the crew came over. Is it time? You think we're ready to inherit your quirk now? Let's not be too hasty, my girl. But yes, I think now is the time to up your training, especially since you've certainly been packing it on. Toshinori chuckled. Now, I need to be clear with you all. There are 2 important factors in passing on one for all. First is that the current holder must want to pass it on. That's already covered, of course. The second is that the one inheriting the quirk must swallow a sample of the holder's DNA. Toshinori then took out a small pocket knife and cut his finger, letting some blood drip into a jug of lemonade, which he then poured into a cup for Hilda to drink. Despite a bit of uncertainty, she took a deep breath and chugged the lemonade down. Almost immediately, the big girl began feeling the effects, energy flowing through her body. She could feel the muscles underneath her flab hardening as steam started to come off. Oh, tingly! Hilda giggled before checking herself. Huh, I don't feel any different. Well, from the look of things, the quirk seems to be agreeing with you too for the most part, Toshinori noted. Still, remember what I said in that it could be dangerous to handle the power of one for all carelessly, as it could damage your body if you don't HRSS it correctly. I think we can help out, Shun said before pausing. Yet that I can't help but sense something inside you girls now. Shun curiously put a hand on Hilda's blubbery bicep and used invasion to enter her mind. Within one for all. He soon found himself in some dark swirling void. Who are you? A mysterious voice spoke up. I am Shun. A seraphim created by Dr. Vegapunk modeled after the goat sin of lust, Gauf. Shun introduced. And you are? A skinny man with snow-white hair and tired-looking eyes stepped out of the shadows. He smiled as he offered his hand for a shake. Pleasure to meet you. Don't exactly know how you ended up here, but I've read stories about the 7 deadly sins and their exploits, so you being modeled after Galder makes sense. The man greeted. My name is Yoichi Shigaraki, the very first user of One for All. I see that I ended up coming in here to try and help my friend Hilda, the new current holder of the power, learn how to harness it properly without hurting herself. Shun explained. What is this place? This is the Vestige Realm, Yoichi said. It's where the spirits of the wielders of One for All go when they die. Well, we're also in heaven, but a small part of us stayed here to help guide future generations. Fascinating. So this is connected to both the living world and the afterlife in a sense? Well, yeah. Quirks are both physical abilities and connected to the soul, so even when we move on, our souls can return here in a spiritual sense if our quirks are still inside something else or someone else. I don't follow. You and your friends will understand in due time. Another voice spoke up as Shun and Yoichi turned to see a rough-looking man with salmon-pink hair walk in. But in the meantime, your little mind trick ended up waking us up. Though we were already getting there since your friend managed to hit singularity with One for All. I see. How fascinating, Shun noted. Well, you helped jumpstart things along, so we'll help ninth from here. A jovial woman's voice spoke up as a beautiful lady with black hair and dressed in a hero costume with a white cape stepped in. You don't need to worry, we'll take care of everything. All right. Shun muttered as he bid the 3 farewell and left the Vestige Realm, returning to the physical plane. What a funny kid. A man with a shaved head, stubble, and a bandolier of bullets said as he came in next. Then again, all those kids our new successor is friends with are pretty charming too. Still, Ninth's best friend. A man with cadet gray hair in a spiked ponytail and wearing a headband muttered as he stepped in. His power at its way too similar to him for my liking. We saw and heard what he could do through Toshi's eyes and ears. The woman said. But from what we can see now from Ninth, he's a good kid. I say we give him the benefit of the doubt. Nana is correct, Bruce. Yuichi voiced his agreement. If the one known as Binio Torakuroshi is related to my brother, then I dare say the apple fell so far from the tree, it instantly made its way to the market. That idiom didn't even make any sense, Bruce grumbled. Your look doesn't make any sense. The silent one in a costume that must have inspired Best Jeanist snapped. An awkward silence fell over the Vestige Realm as a man with stark white hair and a lightning bolt scar sighed. I just wanted to be included. Real world. Back with Shun, he shook off the daze he felt as everyone looked at him curiously. What happened? Yato asked. You just kinda blacked out for a second there. I was in this void. And then these people came out, saying they were the previous holders of One for All. I think they told me they'd be helping Hilda and Rosa master their new power. Toshinori's eyes widened. The previous holders. Was one of them a woman with black hair? Yes. Sensei. Toshinori whispered before shaking his head. Well, even if the previous holders of One for All are planning to help, we here still need to set up a plan for young White Lane to learn how to control it throughout her whole body. I'm ready. Hilda cheered, bumping hammy fists with Rosa, who grinned back. Suddenly, a loud growl echoed through the beach as the 2 plump girls blushed. Yet I think I'm gonna need a feast after all that training. Hilda said. I could eat a buffet out of business if I wanted to. Rosa added. Well, let's not keep you hungry girls waiting. Yato smirked. Watch me show my cooking magic. Hey, cook something up for the rest of us, ya asshat. Rebecca barked. Devil. Are you sure about this, young Midoriya? Toshinori asked as he had been invited to the beach house for a special reason. See, Izuku and his friends figured they could help heal his injury after he showed it to them. Considering some of their abilities, it made the most sense that they could help the symbol of peace with his burden. Currently, Chikara had turned his pillow, which just so happened to be the sealed form of the sacred spear, Chastifol, into its 8th form, Pollen Garden, forming a barrier around Toshinori that was very slowly healing him as he lay on a medical bed. Just trust me, All Might, Izuku said with a reassuring smile. Besides, what do you have to lose? Tashinori's sweat dropped before Shun used invasion to put him to sleep. Izuku then put on a pair of surgical gloves as Dorothy and Maytel came over, wearing surgical masks as Izuku got to work, harnessing the power of the op fruit for what he had to do. Okay, time to put those lessons Dr. Vegapunk gave me to the test. The operation took 25 minutes and an extra 5 minutes as Izuku used the heal fruit to heal Tashinori's last wound, Marco joining in and applying some water, which had healing properties, just to be safe. With everything done, Chikara dispelled Pollen Garden as Tashinori slowly came to. The symbol of peace felt the area where his scar once was to see pale, healthy flesh. Tears began welling up in his eyes before he pulled Izuku into a tight hug. Thank you, my boy. I couldn't have asked for anything more. Izuku's brain nearly went into blue screen over being hugged by his idol while Chikara just chuckled and gave Marco a high five. Maytel and Dorothy also had tiny smiles on their faces before a loud growl came from Tashinori's stomach as he winced. Ambrosia and Depestilis managed to heal most of my stomach, but now that all my wounds are gone. He chuckled as he turned to Izuku. How about we head to Big Bang Burger? My treat. Later, Izuku was amazed at how much Tashinori could put away. For a skinny guy, he had a pretty bottomless stomach that then again, with his stomach fully regenerated, he could make do. Devil. Alright. 2 more months, till the entrance exam. I am so ready. Izuku smiled as the whole crew decided to hit the town after another rigorous day of training. Hilda had managed to learn how to HRNSS a decent amount of One for All, currently being able to use 5% of its full power. The upside of being big and beautiful is that I can tank the backlash, Hilda smirked. Well, I mean I could already. Hilda, just enjoy yourself. Rosa beamed, hugging her friend. But yeah, you got that right. Sides, we can now see the real beans of culture, not that Benny has any competition. Lucky be. Yato, Chikara, and Makoto smiled playfully at their bespectacled friend and brother in training. So, how's it feel to have your fantasy come to life? Sumiko teased Ben as she looked over at him, seeing how bright red his normally pale face was. It's fine. Still, I never thought I'd find anybody with an appetite bigger than mine. Kirby giggled. And yet she's still so undeniably gorgeous. Makoto added. I could stare at that ginormous butt all day. Makoto, it's always but and BRSS this and that. Yato chided. The real treasure is the absolute territory. Bountiful bottom, enviable BRSS, endearingly chubby cheeks, marshmallowy yet firm biceps. Milo said, truly, Hilda is a beautiful specimen of a woman if I ever saw one. Ugh, give it a rest. Katsuki scoffed. Rosa's winning part is her belly, hands down. Kahaku giggled. It just looks so soft and comforting. It could be used to help people go to sleep. Yeah, and she's been beefing harder than Hilda. Sumiko smirked. Seriously, that girl ate a 20-inch sandwich like it was nothing. Guys, come on, you're embarrassing us. Rosa giggled as she and Hilda's chubby cheeks blushed. Izuku just smiled as he listened to his friends' banter. In just 2 more months, they'd all be ready to go to UA. It felt like a dream come true, and to think he thought his dreams would never be reached due to being quirkless. Who knew getting shipwrecked and washing up on a remote island would change his fortune and grant him so many amazing friends? Izuku hummed as he was buying groceries by himself. Everyone else was busy with certain things, so he figured he'd take care of the shopping. Besides, it helped keep his mind off things for the most part. Suddenly, he felt his hockey flare to life. Quickly running to the source of the disturbance, he saw a group of punks cornering what looked like 2 girls, clearly having ill intentions for them. Come on, babies, have some fun with us. Ugh, go piss off and die in a ditch, ya loats. The first girl snapped in a Welsh accent. She had neck-length silver hair styled into a bob cut with matching feline ears on top of her head, amber eyes, 3 white striped tattoos on her face, and elongated canines. Please, we don't want any trouble. Worriedly spoke the other girl who resembled a mix of dolphin and shark, She had webbed feet and light blue fins with a yellow end, slight muscles, golden-colored eyes, and sharp teeth. She wore silver jewelry consisting of a crown, a heart-shaped choker necklace, matching bracelets, a crescent chain belt with pale diamond-shaped blue gems in it, and twin anklets. Wait, is that? Izuku thought as he recognized the second girl. Not wanting these creeps to harm the two girls, Izuku immediately flared a small amount of his conqueror's haki. This made the thugs all straighten out in fear and turn to see him, sweat pouring down their faces. The girls said they didn't want any trouble, Izuku said. So why don't you do them a favor and walk away? Why, you little sheet? One of the thugs snapped as he rushed forward, sprouting flames from his fist as he prepared to punch Izuku, only for him to grab his wrist and use the chili fruit to freeze the guy up to his neck. Die! Another thug shouted, sprouting tentacles from his wrist to try and strangle Izuku, only for him to turn into smoke with the plume fruit to phase through the shoddy attack and appear in front of the creep, punching him in the stomach so hard, he keeled over and puked his guts up before passing out. The remaining thugs looked ready to PSS their pants, but to their credit, they still held their ground as they tried to gang up on Izuku all at once, only for him to use the woods fruit to shoot out thick branch-like tentacles that impaled the thugs and sed out their nutrients into Izuku, leaving them as shriveled, barely alive husks. Remember, you brought this on yourselves, he said before straightening himself up approaching the two girls. Are you all right? I will survive. The cat-eared girl nodded. I was ready to tear them apart myself. From what I can sense from you, I believe that. Izuku smiled. I'm Izuku Midoriya. I'm Nia Hanakoma. Izuku? The other girl whispered in surprise, something the boy picked up on. Wait, Maifa? Izuku gasped as he recognized the girl. The two let out elated squeals and hugged each other, leaving the cat girl confused. How did? When did? Maifa asked, tears in her eyes. I can't believe it. Izuku beamed in kind. Here. The two hugged again, and the cat girl let him enjoy their time. Nia, this is Izuku Midoriya. Maifa finally explained after a few minutes and clearing her eyes. Nia raised a brow. The friend who died at sea saving someone? Long story short, I was rescued but stranded on an island for 10 years. Izuku half-lied. Thankfully the two girls bought it for now. Izuku, this is Nia, my best friend. Maifa explained. We met about 2 years after you vanished. Her uncle is a retired hero and well, us animal gals stick together. Izuku and Nia shared a strong handshake, smirking at the other's strength. Well, whatever happened in that decade, you made it work. Nia remarked. Although, Maifa told me you were. That is a story in and of itself. Izuku admitted, then looking back at Maifa. I saw Katsuki not too long ago. I'm guessing. Oh, he did briefly try and be nicer to me and others. Maifa explained. For not the best reasons at least. Maifa was princess of a clan of fishmen that called themselves Zora. From what she'd told Izuku many years ago, her people decided to leave Fishman Island and brave Paradise, seeing as some countries were more open than their brethren believed. Their hoped goal was that when something or someone called Poseidon resurfaced, they would help it understand the world. With their natural manipulation of water, superhuman strength, and unique abilities depending on the type of fishmen they were, they had easily found work in heroism, construction, and lifeguarding. Maifa herself was a proud girl but not one to be tied down by her title and wanting to help others. This had endeared Izuku to her, and made her loathe the younger, arrogant Katsuki. So, after Izuku's death, when Katsuki had looked for a genuine friend and he'd turned to her, Maifa had simply told him to be more like their fallen friend before she immersed herself in her training. Well, you've certainly grown since I last saw you. The Zora princess smiled. And yet that you have not changed. Izuku smiled sheepishly at that. Say, if you two are free, why not swing by for a visit? They didn't need to be told twice. Devil. Welcome to Tari Station, guys. Kirby smiled. It's a little slice of heaven. Katsuki, Kirby, Ben, Hilda, and Rosa had decided to take the crew to one of their favorite hangout spots, which was one of the best arcades in the entire country of Japan, having a little bit of everything from classic to modern games and even a diner for food and drinks. When Izuku finally arrived with Nia and Maifa in tow, the fun truly began after Milo has received a refreshing blast of water to the face after they'd asked if either girl would let them see their panties. "The manager knows me here," Ben smirked, holding up a premium membership card. "I have discounts which I'm all too happy to share." "I've actually haunted this place a few times before," Milo noted. "What? You thought I was just the Reaper haunting the hot springs or something?" "So many games," Rebecca crowed, running up to a Terminator Salvation arcade machine. "Dibs." The crew all split off to play the games that tickled their fancy. Kahaku, Milo, and Sumiko squared off in Dance Dance Revolution while Kanzuya developed a hyper-focus on Pac-Man and Marco greatly enjoyed Centipede. Yato and Shun blew their time on the skee-ball machines while Hilda, Rosa, and Ben got everyone a seat in the dining area. Izuku perked up as he noticed an Ultra Street Fighter 4 arcade machine and went over to play it. Choosing Ryu, he put his game face on as he started to play. Katsuki grinned as he came over and took the player 2 spot, picking Sagat. "You're going down, Deku." "In your dreams, Kachin." As the crew was enjoying themselves, Maifa and Nia spied a group of familiar faces, 6 girls they knew very well. The first girl had fair skin, inward-tilting yellow eyes with thin slit-like irises, somewhat resembling those of a cat, and a feline-esque mouth, her canines pointed and longer than the rest of her teeth, giving her a vampiric appearance. Her hair was a pale, ash-blonde color and was styled into 2 messy buns, with numerous wild strands sticking out a straight fringe, and 2 chin-length side bangs framing her face. Her name was Himiko Dracule, the unofficial leader of this group and one of Nia's fave sparring partners, partly because of her adoptive father. The second girl had bright blue eyes, flowing light blonde hair, and uniquely enough, large dark turquoise cow-like ears. This was Bakara Jurgen, who had been tutoring buddies with Maifa, tutoring students when she could. The third girl looked rather skittish and anxious. She had short brown hair tied in a ponytail with a shoulder-length hair strand hanging on the right side, brown eyes with white pupils, and 4 moles on her face, 2 under her left eye, 1 on the lower right side of her mouth, and 1 on her left cheek. Her name was Kobini Higashiyama, the newest member of their gang who stuck around because she adored Nia's cat-like features. The fourth girl had a very slim physique, fair skin, freckles adorning the bridge of her nose, short black hair done in a stylish bob, and distinct purple-gray eyes. She wore a white button-down blouse with a brown tie, brown pleated skirt, black stockings, and black loafers. She was Mukuro Ikusaba, a regular at the martial arts, paintball or survival camps, where she had met Nia and formed a rivalry with her. The fifth and final girl was quite soft-figured and chubby and had brown hair tied in a ring-shaped braid with a tuft of hair on the end and light blue eyes. Her name was Lily-Kay Kadoka, an utter sweetheart whom Maifa had befriended over their mutual love of reading. "Hey, come on. We're at the arcade and I'm feeling kinda restless. Wanna show my moves at DDR?" Himiko said as she led the group in. "Of course, you're going to have me pay for everyone's tokens, aren't you?" Bakara noted dryly. I dunno, I'm not very good." Kobini nervously said. "That's not true, Kobini. I saw you beat a time crisis machine with those shootin' skills." Lily-Kay argued with a positivity-inducing smile. Mukuro hummed quietly, simply going along with her friends. "Hey girls." Nia called out, finally getting their attention. "Nia! Mia!" Himiko beamed, urging the others to join up with them. "What are you doing here?" "Catching up with an old friend," Maifa explained, dragging Izuku to introduce them to him. "Izuku, these are some more friends of Nia and myself. Girls, this is Izuku Midoriya, the foil to Katsuki over there. Oi! And bravest and kindest boy you'll ever meet." Izuku gave a bow and made small talk with the others, who came up to investigate. "Pardon me, my lovelies, but may I see your panties dash?" Milo began, only to be kicked away by Katsuki. "Ignore that perverted Reaper." "Nah, it's fine. They're funny." Himiko giggled, then spying Makoto's sword as Makoto spied her butterfly knives. They each drew their blades and clashed for a second, a shockwave coming from the impact as they smirked at each other. Not bad. They both mused. Well, haven't seen Himiko not know 0ck someone out in a while. Makuro mused. She wouldn't happen to be of any relation to Dracula Mihawk, would she? Kanzuya asked, interested piqued. He's my daddy. Himiko beamed. Adopted. Long story. And Makoto, right? He'd at least get serious for you, for a second. New. Go. Unlocked. Makoto beamed. Ahem. Bakura called out, getting all eyes on her. I believe we're here to play games? Sheepishly, everyone returned to that. Devil. Soon enough, it was time to head home. That being said, the group stayed together, chatting and getting to know each other better. Suddenly, Ben bumped into someone, falling over on top of them with a cry of alarm. Ooh, that looked like it hurt. Chikara winced. The rest of the crew ran over to make sure Ben was okay as he groaned, picking himself up. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to. It was then Ben's eyes locked with the most mesmerizing green orbs he'd ever seen. As it turned out, he had landed on a girl, a cute girl at that. She had light skin with rather curly short orange hair that came down to her chin with a small cowlick on top and a pink bow on the back of her head. Adorning her face was an adorable splash of freckles. She wore an off-white old-fashioned styled off-the-shoulder blouse with frill-detailed trim and frill-flared cuffs that half covered her hands alongside copper button detailing on the lower parts of her sleeves. She also sported a short gray pinafore dress with golden trim on the hem alongside 4 light green stalagmite-styled stripes on the lower half of the dress, 2 on the front and 2 on the back, accompanied by 2 matching colored circles above the tips that had a stripe that ran around her waistline, with golden outlines, and a detachable black and light green collar. She also wore a pair of black thigh-high leg pieces that seemingly were attached to black shoes. The leg pieces had a single green stripe up the sides that appeared to light up. She also wore a silver backpack. Ben, you're staring. Kanzuya awkwardly said, snapping the bespectacled boy out of his trance as he cried and jumped to his feet. I'm so sorry. Salutations. The girl greeted, a bright smile still on her face. Hello. Izuku greeted back. Are you okay? Kahaku asked. I'm wonderful. Thank you for asking. Do you need help getting up? Hilda asked. The girl actually seemed to think about it for a second before smiling again. Yes. With a spring and a hop, she was instantly back on her feet. My name is Penny. It's a pleasure to meet you. Hi, Penny. I'm Izuku Midoriya. Izuku smiled. Katsuki Bakugu. Remember it because that's gonna be a big name when I go pro. Oh, don't mind him. Kirby giggled. I'm Kirby, by the way. Himiko Toga. Himiko smiled. Name's Binio Torakuroshi. Just call me Ben. Sorry for bumping into you. Hilda Tukatoya. Hilda beamed, already taking a liking to this weird girl. Rosa Meihei. Rosa joined in, slinging a hammy arm around her fellow big girl's shoulder. The name's Makoto. I'm Chikara. Name's Yato. The silver-haired Serperum saluted with a single hand. Just call me Sumiko, dear. Kahaku. Kanzuya. It's nice to meet you too. Yo, the name's Rebecca. The cyborg girl flashed a peace sign. Marco. Nui. And this here is Click. Marco smiled, holding up Click, who chirped a few times in greeting. Are you sure you didn't hit your head? Shun asked before being bopped over the head by Kahaku. Oh, I'm Shun. I'm Milo Belladonna. May I see your dash? Milo was knocked to the ground by a chop to the head from Mukuro, who kept a stoic expression the whole while. Mukuro Ikusuba, at your service. Nia, this is Maifa. Nia introduced herself and Maifa, who smiled and waved. Keiko Bini Higashiyama. Bakara Jurgen. I'm Lily-K Kadoka Lipati. It's a pleasure to meet you. Penny beamed. You already said that. Nia awkwardly pointed out. So I did. I like her. Hilda giggled to Ben, who could only nod as he began to resume walking. Sorry for bumping into you. Take care, friend. The crew began to take their leave while the girl seemed surprised at something. Well, she was weird. But hey, weird chicks can be secretary. Yato shrugged. Ugh, of course you'd say that. Kahaku huffed. She seemed pretty interesting. Izuku noted. I could sense something strange about her with my haki, but... Suddenly, Izuku realized that Penny was in front of him and jumped slightly. Oh, was there something you needed? What did you call me? That I don't think I called you anything. No, not you. Penny clarified before turning to Ben. You. Emma me. You called me friend. Am I really your friend? Ben tried to open his mouth to say something when Hilda skipped up behind him and wrapped her blubbery arms around him, hugging him close as she grinned playfully. Of course. Any girl as nice as you should have 100 friends. I can be your friend too if you want. Me too. Rosa added. Me 3. Himiko beamed. Why not? Rebecca shrugged. No harm in having one more friend. Bakara nodded. Sensational. Penny cheered. We can paint our nails and try on clothes and talk about cute boys. Well, you've got a cute boy right in front of you. Hilda teasingly said as she pushed Ben closer to Penny, the bespectacled boy locking up and gaping like a fish as he struggled to find the right words to say. Hilda, please. I don't think his heart can handle it. Rosa playfully said as Hilda just grinned cheekily. Hey, I've known Ben my whole life. I'd give him the world if I could. I kind of figured you'd be jealous. Kahaku pointed out. Why would I be? That girl is cute. So, what are you doing around here? Katsuki asked, pushing Ben aside to save him from embarrassment. I'm here to enroll in UA. Penny smiled. I'm taking the recommendation exam. You're going to UA too? So are we. Himiko said excitedly. Maybe we'll get to be in the same class. Forgive me, but you hardly look the part, Shun said bluntly. I'm combat ready. Penny assured, giving a cute little salute. Oh really? You up for a spar? Katsuki smirked. Really, Kachin? Izuku sighed. Hey, I want to see her fight too. Yato added. Oh sure, ya second-rate cook. Katsuki smirked. What was that, you over-king son of a beach? Yato snapped, getting in the blonde's face. You heard me. For your information, I am an Epicurean and experimenter. I heard Kimiko say I'm the better baker. Katsuki suddenly became more angry than ever. You took my adorable little sister's love with sweet sheet? Isn't she Izuku's sister? I only just got back a few months ago, so technically, no. Izuku whimpered, getting patted on the back by Lily K, Himiko, Kahaku, and Rosa. Let's tango, you tan terror. Oh, real original. Yato smirked as he reached behind him. Please, ignore those two, Bakara said, keeping Penny's attention away. Izuku smiled seeing a new friend being made before his haki suddenly picked something up. His head quickly turned to the source of the disturbance before rushing over to it. His friends quickly took notice and all of them, including Penny, quickly followed after him. When Izuku made it to the source, he saw a terrified little girl with long pale blue-gray hair, apple-red eyes, and a small brown horn poking out of the right side of her forehead. Are you okay? Izuku asked worriedly as his friends caught up. Please, help me. There you are, Eri. Get back here. The girl cowered in terror as a small group of men in plague doctor masks arrived. They noticed Izuku and his friends and quickly drew their guns on them. Give us that girl and nobody gets hurt. Izuku narrowed his eyes as he, Katsuki, and surprisingly Himiko rushed forward while the others moved to keep the girl known as Eri safe. Gum Gum Bazooka! Izuku shouted, stretching his arms back with the Gum Gum fruit before snapping them forward to deliver a powerful double palm move, sending two of the thugs flying. Epal sprawl! Katsuki cried, delivering a downward kick to the bulkiest of the thug's shoulders, knocking him to the ground before hitting him with a downward explosive palm to the face. Onigiri! Himiko shouted, delivering a dashing slash with the 3 swords she had attached to her hip. Blood burst off the last thug's body as he fell over, badly cut up. With the thugs dealt with, everyone turned their attention to the scared little girl they had just rescued. She was still shaking in terror and Sumiko was gently holding her close, rubbing her back in calm circular motions while whispering comforting words to her. Why were those creeps after her? Kirby asked. Did those bad men hurt you? Sumiko cooed gently. I've contacted the police. They should be here any minute with questions. Penny said, having been quiet until now. I'm calling All Might too, Hilda said as she took out her phone. He needs to hear this as well. Devil. Toshinori didn't know what was going on when he got a call from Hilda telling him to meet her and the others at the police district. The symbol of peace feared the worst, but he relaxed somewhat when he saw his successor and her friends all safe. However, what confused him was both Izuku and Sumiko consoling a small girl who looked no older than 5 or 6. Judging by the look in her eyes, the poor girl must have been through something seriously traumatizing, but the presence of the young heroes in training eased her. I came as soon as I got the message. What happened? Toshinori asked, getting the teen's attention. Well, we were all just hanging out when I felt this malicious intent with my hockey. I ran to the source to find a little girl running away from these thugs wearing plague doctor masks. They pointed guns at us, so we had free rein to take them out in self-defense. Izuku explained with as much detail as he could. Oh my! You know All Might? A girl with curly orange hair, green eyes, and freckles chimed in. How sensational! Toshinori looked confused, especially since this girl knew he was All Might. However, the chief detective of this police district, Naomasa Tsukachi, was a close and trusted friend of his, so he didn't mind too much. Impressive deduction. Who are you? Oh, this is Penny. We met her before everything went crazy. Kahaku explained. Also, this is Eri. She's the girl we rescued. Yato explained as the little girl in question was hugging Izuku. Poor girl is terrified. She also doesn't seem to trust medical equipment. Sumiko added. She nearly went into a panic attack when the doctors drew blood for a DNA test. I had to calm her down with the peace amulet. They didn't take that much blood. Don't they need more? Eri whispered, her face buried in Izuku's chest. They only need a small amount to examine it. They just need a sample to check for diseases. Toshi, is that you? Toshinori smiled and turned to see Naomasa himself walk in. The detective had taken off his hat and coat and had a mug of coffee in hand. Naomasa, so good to see you again. The symbol of peace smiled. Have you gotten anything from those fiends who attacked the kids? Not much, but we did confiscate their gear. One of them had a gun loaded with a strange needle injector. Forensics managed to scan the contents, and it's some kind of unique chemical compound that directly attacks the quirk gene. Toshinori frowned. So what you're saying is that injector was filled with what can be called a quirk killer. It gets worse. Naomasa said. After we managed to get that little girl's DNA, we saw that the quirk killer formula matched with it. You mean to tell me that someone was harvesting that girl's blood to make this? Toshinori asked in a sickened tone. Whoever they are, they won't get away with this. It's Overhaul, acting leader of the Shy Hasakai. Everyone turned and both Toshinori and Naomasa were surprised to see who it was. A tall, lanky gentleman with green hair that had streaks of yellow, glasses, a red tie with white polka dots, and was dressed like an everyday accountant. Mirai. Hello, Toshi. Been a long time. The man said, a somber look on his face. But we can save pleasantries for later. That girl until recently was in the custody of Kai Chisaki, codename Overhaul. No way. It's Sir Night Eye, All Might's former sidekick before he became a full-fledged pro in his own right. Izuku exclaimed excitedly as Eri looked confused. And you must be Izuku Midoriya, the boy who was once thought lost at sea 10 years ago, Night Eye noted. Anyway, I've been investigating Overhaul and his group for a while now. So far, it's been a game of cat and mouse stuck in a stalemate. But because of these children's accidental involvement, fortune seems to now be favoring us. But why would Overhaul want to create these quirk killers? Toshinori asked. And what does it have to do with using young Eri's blood? Eri having remained silent, this whole town was keeping her eyes on the ground. Eri. She looked up to see Izuku in front of her. If it's too painful, you don't have to tell us, but we need that information. So please will you let us? Eri didn't say anything for a moment, and just as Izuku was about to ask again, she nodded slowly. With a quick thank you, he used the power of the Memo fruit to extract the memories from the young girl. Eri let out a gasp when she saw the film reel being pulled out of her head, while Night Eye looked rather intrigued, finding comparisons to his own quirk, foresight. Everyone soon took a look at Eri's memories, and what they saw horrified them all to no end. The poor girl had been medically abused by Overhaul to make the quirk killer. But beyond that, he had been mentally breaking her down to dissuade any notion of running away. The poor child had every reason to believe that Overhaul would kill whoever was between her and him. Kobini couldn't bear it and ran to the nearest trash can to puke her guts up, while Maifa felt tears well up in her eyes as she covered her mouth. Nia began growling like an angered lion, while Himiko shuddered, unpleasant memories resurfacing in her mind. Milo just closed their eyes and shook their head in sorrow. Being a Reaper, they had seen their fair share of death, but they never got used to seeing the deaths of people so young. Toshinori himself could never remember a time he was this angry, even when his beloved master had been killed, because whereas that was a hero doing what was right, this was a child being tortured and abused. If only I'd known. Night Eye muttered weakly, taking off his glasses to show the haunted look in his eyes. That explains the bandages. Sumiko whispered as Izuku put the memories back in Eri, an apologetic look on his face. Eri, I'm so sorry you had to go through that. Nobody has to suffer like that, especially not you. Izuku suddenly shocked Eri when he pulled her into a firm, gentle embrace. The little girl didn't know how to process this before tears welled up in her eyes, and she hugged him back, letting out massive wails of pent-up anguish and pain which broke everyone's hearts. What's worse is this: if everything we've just learned is true, then if Overhaul does indeed intend to mass-produce this quirk killer, then it's likely his goal is nothing short of the eradication of hero society itself. Naomasa pointed out. Suddenly, everyone noticed that Ben was writing something in a notepad he had pulled out. He saw everyone's curious looks and simply put the notepad away. Sorry, just writing a bill for this fuckhead to pay when we face him. Language? Kahaku snapped, covering Eri's ears. Absolutely not. Night Eye said firmly. You may have gotten a pass with self-defense when rescuing the girl, but this is hero business and you kids don't even have your licenses yet. Mirai, please, Toshinori said to his old sidekick. I trust young Midoriya and the others. Besides, they have powers that could prove beneficial to dealing with whatever Overhaul has in store for us. Night Eye looked like he wanted to protest, but then Izuku spoke up in his and the rest of his crew's defense as well. Sir Night Eye, when I was shipwrecked, I ate a fruit that granted me a large myriad of magical powers. One faction of those powers is called Logia, and it allows me to create, manipulate, and transform into different elements. With them, Overhaul wouldn't be much of a problem. Yes, Overhaul's quirk, which has the same name as his title, allows him to disassemble and reassemble solid matter with a touch. This includes human bodies. Night Eye said, All right, I guess I can give you a pass to use your quirks to help in dealing with this situation. Indeed. With the evidence we've just gathered, we can hit the base of the Shai Hasakai as early as tonight. Naomasa nodded. But what will we do with Eri? Hibiki asked worriedly as the little girl had now taken a seat on her lap. She can live with us, Chikara said. We have plenty of room on our ship, and Maytel and Dorothy can keep her safe while we put the screws to this creep. During the conversation, Hilda had taken Eri and let her nestle into her stomach while Marco sat down and allowed her to hold Click, the little girl's eyes slowly closing at how comfy she was, especially when Milo summoned a violin and began playing a soothing melody on it. The sight of her snuggled up like a little teddy bear against Hilda's comforting blubber warmed the hearts of all in the area. Guys? Izuku asked. Got it, Captain. Protect her happiness with our lives and be darn proud of it. Yato said. SSH. Bakara shushed, pointing to the now stirring Eri. Oh, way to go, ya bum. Nia grumbled. You woke the kitten up. I hope you're happy. As everyone began playfully bickering with each other while Hilda helped lull Eri back to peaceful sleep, Toshinori and Naomasa couldn't help but chuckle at the adorable scene. I have a feeling that little girl is in good hands with those kids. Indeed. But right now that we have a raid to plan. Later that night, the raid team had all assembled. There were over 200 police officers as well as plenty of pro heroes, including Death Arms, Kamui Woods, Best Jeanist, Gang Orca, Ryukyu, Fat Gum, Rocklock, Majestic, Xless, Mr. Brave, Kesajiri Man, Crust, and even the rising rookie sensation, Mount Lady. Hilda, Rosa, Kirby, Lily K, Kobini, and Ben had all opted to stay with Eri back at the summer house to keep her safe alongside Dorothy and Maytel. Izuku, the Seraphim, Katsuki, Himiko, and the rest were all accompanying the raid team since they were permitted by Night Eye and All Might to assist. Are you sure it's a good idea to bring children into this? Rocklock asked. It doesn't sit right with me. Believe me, I was skeptical as well. Night Eye clarified. But these children claim to have skills that will make taking down Overhaul's base of operation easier. Okay, but what's she doing here? Xless asked as he gestured to Penny, who was also there. She's a special case. Mind if a vigilante joins in? Everyone suddenly looked to see a familiar cloaked man in black jump down. It was the quirk judge, the police, and some of the pros present were prepared to apprehend him, but All Might held out a hand to stop them. I see you heard the news as well? They were torturing a goddamn child. I've got a bill they need to pay. Those words caused Izuku and his crew's eyes to perk up, remembering what Ben had said earlier. Sorry, just writing a bill for this fuckhead to pay when we face him. Well, with your quirk, this will be a snap. All Might said as Night Eye stood beside him with a skeptical look. Toshi, are you sure? Don't you know his power is way too similar to his? He saved young Tukatoya and Meihei from Gus the Ogre when they risked their lives to save a family he was holding hostage. I'd say he's more than trustworthy. Night Eye sighed before turning to the quirk judge. Alright, if All Might says he can trust you, then I guess I have no say in the matter. But if you try anything, I will not hesitate to bring you in. Duly noted. Man, not even at UA and we're already helping the pros and police out on a mission. Yato said. Talk about pressure. That's never stopped you before, has it? Kanzuya noted. Ready, Click? Marco asked as Click chirped before transforming into a scarab-themed sword, Marco drawing out his father's sword as well. Kazu-kun, will you be okay? Izuku asked. It's nighttime and we know your meta ability only works at its best when it's daytime. Don't worry, Izuku-kun. Kanzuya smiled reassuringly. Dr. Vegapunk and Sumiko helped me come up with a technique to help store my power in case of that nightly excursion. All talking soon ceased as All Might stepped forward to speak to everyone. Heroes, thank you all for coming. As we all know, the men in this factory have been threatening the society we know today. The leader Kai Chisaki aka Overhaul is trying to revert the world into the time before quirks and take over. On top of that, he has been torturing and abusing a small child to harvest her DNA to make what he needs for his twisted plan. Many police and pros muttered in horror at what they heard, especially in regard to the abuse Eri went through. That's why we are here to destroy the base and capture everyone involved. The police will deal with the common thugs. Heroes, our jobs are to take down Overhaul's elite guard, the 8 precepts of death, and finally, because they possess skills that can make Overhaul's quirk meaningless, these brave young heroes will deal with Overhaul. Izuku and his friends stepped up. Some police and heroes were still not too keen on having aid from a vigilante, but they'd let it slide since All Might was vouching for him. Alright, as long as we're in agreement, let us begin. All Might said as he turned to the front gates and pulled his fist back. Texas Smash. Devil. Kai Chisaki aka Overhaul, was to put it lightly, enraged. Eri, the cursed child, had managed to escape from the guys who were tasked with looking after her. To make matters worse, those same guys were apparently beaten and arrested, so he couldn't take his anger out on them for their failure either. Boss, we'll find that brat. Trust me. Joy Irinaka aka Mimic said. I've already sent out an agent to find her for us. Hari Kurono aka Chronostasis said. He better find her or I will personally make sure he's nothing but a blood splatter when this is over. Overhaul growled. To make matters worse, our merchandise was confiscated as well. Whoever managed to arrest our boys knew what they were doing, that's for sure, Mimic muttered. Either that or they didn't even need to use their quirks, which speaks a lot. Don't worry, Mimic. Once we find out who did this, I will make sure they suffer for everything. Overhaul said dangerously. None of them realized the value that Airy has dash. Boom. Fresh. Overhaul and his two right-hand men were startled by the explosion and turned to see the door was knocked down from its hinges. Standing there was none other than the infamous quirk judge and some kid with green hair and freckles. Knock knock. The quirk judge scowled behind his mask. Devil. Earlier. As soon as All Might punched the gates down, everyone rushed inside. The Yakuza patrolling had no idea how to react as a large figure moved to stop the assault. His name was Rikiya Katsukame, one of Overhaul's elite guards known as the 8 Bullets. What do you want? Bringing all these people so late at night? The huge man demanded as he threw a punch forward, only for Kahaku to grab his fist and knee him in the gut, sending him stumbling back. Ow, that hurt. But I'm more awake now dash. Circle rock. Kahaku put her hands on the ground and twisted them into a circle, causing a stone dome to form around Katsukame and seal him inside. That ought to take care of him, Chikara noted. Izuku, can you see where Overhaul is? Izuku used observation haki to pinpoint where Overhaul was and narrowed his eyes angrily as he rushed ahead, using the swim fruit to move ahead. The quirk judge warped inside the dome Kahaku had trapped Katsukame in and grabbed him by the chest. Mind if I have this for a pre-fight snack? Katsukame let out a choked gasp as the quirk judge pulled something out of him which then went inside him. As Katsukame tried to process what happened, he noticed the judge doing something familiar. Why you're using my quirk? Thanks, you won't be needing it in jail. Katsukame felt all his energy drained from his body, which became smaller, sickly, and skinny as he fell over, his quirk, energy, having been stolen by the judge's power. Meanwhile, most of the group had managed to enter the compound. However, they were halted by the rest of the 8 Bullets. Go, we'll take care of him. Nia ordered as she, Marco, Bakara, Maifa, Milo, and Makuro stayed behind while the others went ahead. These brats look tough. Let's see if they've got the cojones to stand up to us. Kendo Rappa laughed as he rushed forward and used his quirk, Strong Arm, to send a barrage of blows at the 8. Bakara quickly acted, holding out her hands and creating a brilliant silver sigil with her quirk, Glyph, which allowed her to use glyph-based magic spells. Nice defense. Rappa complimented. But you can't hide behind it forever. Makuro pulled out a taser thanks to her own quirk, Requip, which allowed her to summon any manner of weapon she could think of. As she moved to zap Rappa, the taser was pulled out of her hand and into the midst of Setsuno Toya courtesy of his quirk, Larceny. Nice try, girlie. But you won't be pulling anything out of URK. Lion Point, Heavy Gong. Nia shouted. Her muscles had become tighter and firmer and a lion's mane-like collar sprouted around her neck as she punched Setsuno in the stomach, making him keel over. Stand back a little. Milo smirked as he took out a skull-tipped cane and unsheathed a hidden sword from it. Obad coup droit. A compressed burst of air was shot from the tip of the sword as it was moved forward. The projectile was stopped by Hekiji Tengai and his quirk, Barrier, but he was shocked to see the attack had left a crack in his shield. Sorimitsu Tabe and Shin Nemoto were powerless as they ended up being taken down rather quickly by Marco, who created large, thick vines with his plant life element to drag them to the ground and keep them pinned. Hojo tried to use his quirk, Crystallization, to cover himself in an armor of crystals, only for Maifa to get in front of him. 5,000 Brick Fist. The crystals were instantly shattered by the force of the Zora Princess punches. Hojo was sent flying and crashing into Didoro Sakaki, who couldn't even use his quirk, Dead Drunk, to mess up the young hero's equilibrium in time. Figured Azora would know how to use Fishman Karate. Bakara smirked as Maifa giggled. Hekiji had been caught off guard and pinned down by Makuro, who held a knife to his neck to dissuade any notion of fighting back. As for Rappa, he was taken down by Milo with a propelling move from his sword. Had it, you kids are tough. Let's meet again sometime. Indeed, you showed honor. Milo smiled. And I can certainly sense that you're better than the rest of these scum. That's the elite guard taken care of, Bakara noted. Let's just hope our friends are doing all right. If they need our help, we better go get to them, Marco said as he led the way. Devil. We're here to take you down, Overhaul, Izuku said, his eyes narrowed with a fiery fury toward the slime who would dare hurt an innocent child for his own sick goals. You're outnumbered, Overhaul, Penny said as she, Katsuki, Himiko, and the Seraphim arrived as well. It is highly advisable that you simply surrender. So you're the ones who took away that cursed child. Overhaul growled as Chronostasis and Mimic prepared to make their move, only for Izuku to use the string fruit to catch Mimic's tiny doll body in strings and swing him into Chronostasis like a flail, sending both of them sprawling. Eri isn't cursed. You used her as a lab rat for your sick experiments. Izuku scowled angrily. We won't let you get away with what you've done to her. You all don't know what Eri is fully capable of. Eri can rewind humans. Overhaul snapped. Only I can fully use and control her. Eri rewinds humans, and everyone who touches her will be rewound to nothingness. The girl's quirk is a curse. Hand her over, as I am the only one who can stop her by dissembling her. Does this guy even hear himself? Makoto asked incredulously. Doubtful, Sumiko growled. Not happening. Eri has suffered under your care long enough. I won't let it continue any longer. Izuku snapped. A quirk like that sounds like a perfect quirk for a doctor or even a hero. The quirk judge added. That you would abuse it for your own greed and shift the blame on such a young girl is something that I won't stand for. You don't understand the value of Eri's power, nor does she understand it herself, Overhaul said. The Yakuza before the Great Disease was feared and respected. But as powerful quirk users rose, even within our ranks, the families started to disband. It was only a miracle that let the Shai Hasaikai remain. But now I have the means to cure it. I will remove this disease from everyone, even myself when it's all over. Do you even hear your effing lips flap? Katsuki scoffed. Even a guy like me can tell you're just full of it. Overhaul slammed his palm on the ground, disassembling it and reassembling it into spikes to try and tear the two apart. However, Izuku quickly squatted down and leaped into the air before turning his arms into blades with the dice fruit, cutting through the spikes as the quirk judge fired bolts of superheated plasma to burn a path through. Every one of you is missing the big picture. I'm tearing this world down, this false framework down to build a truly fair world. Overhaul roared as he tried to hit the two boys. You heroes are only seeing what's in front of you, never looking deeper to find the truth. Such a narrow-minded justice that shouldn't exist along with your foolish dreams. Gum Gum Whip. Izuku stretched his leg and swung it like a whip, smacking Overhaul in the side of the head. The villain thought he saw an opening and grabbed Izuku's leg, expecting to disassemble him, that only to realize he was touching soot instead. If I can't save a small girl in front of me who needs help, then how can I call myself a hero? Izuku snapped. You claim to build a true world, but the reality is that you're just someone who's abusing a girl and hoping to set yourself as a ruler. I won't let such injustice stand as long as I can fight. If I look away, then how can I be a hero that saves everyone? Inspiring. The quirk judge said, smiling behind his mask before realizing Overhaul was using his free hand to reconstruct the wall next to him to form a spiked fist to strike Izuku down. Look out! Izuku had expected Overhaul's attack, but the judge still shoved him out of the way to safety, taking the brunt of the attack himself. Izuku's eyes widened in horror as he stumbled down, his mask lying broken on the ground as he lay in a heap in the corner. Angered, the boy turned toward Overhaul and pulled his fist back, coating it in armament hockey. Red Hawk. Overhaul was hit with a fiery punch to the face that sent him tumbling back and slamming into the back wall. Furiously, he touched his desk and deconstructed it before reconstructing it into multiple spears that he sent toward Izuku. Izuku merely bobbed and weaved through the attacks before dashing forward and forming a quake bubble around his fist with the tremor fruit. Before Overhaul could react, Izuku's tremoring punch connected, cracking the air around them and sending Overhaul crashing straight out of his compound and onto the streets. No. I need to build my empire. Overhaul coughed as he struggled to get up. It's the only way to make it up to Pops. You mean, this, Pops? Sumiko asked, suddenly appearing behind Overhaul with 2 cubes in her hands, one of which held what looked like a cube and the other. Boss! Overhaul screamed, turning his back on Izuku and racing to grab Sumiko, only for one of his hands to be sliced off by Kanzuya with a fiery karate chop. There is no need for Sumiko to enter this brawl. Mine and Izuku's power are plenty even with what we have planned. Overhaul was too busy healing himself to heed Sumiko's explanation. Before coming here, Izuku took all of Eri's pain. I just found your master and cured him of the sickness you gave him, storing it in this cube. Let's see if you can handle them. With that, the cubes broke, and Overhaul found himself in a giant black and white paw-shaped bubble. Before he could react, his body suddenly began convulsing, bleeding, and breaking down before reforming, all while the brain damage disease he'd given the Oyabun made it impossible for him to breathe. Izuku called out, removing the sickness from Overhaul, saving his life, barely. Even amidst the pain and near death, the maddened Yakuza attempted to attack him. Fox Hunter! Yato called out, stealing away what remained of the villain's strength. Penny rushed in and delivered a quick barrage of precise punches to Chisaki's midsection before delivering a chop to the back of his neck, sending him sprawling. Overhaul vomited blood inside his plague mask, his skin breaking out in hives as he struggled to get up, only for Katsuki to get up close without giving him a chance. Collier coup! The explosive blonde shouted, delivering a precise kick to the Yakuza leader's neck, making him collapse with a gurgle. And even they, as he fell to the ground and fought through pain and blacking out, Kai Chisaki would not quit. With the last ounce of strength in his body, he grazed a wall and used his quirk, transforming into a monster of flesh, concrete, and stone. You will return Eri to me. The transformed Overhaul roared. I need her to realize the old man's greatest wish. To bring the Yakuza back to the glory days. Full counter. Makoto swung his sword, sending the move back and destroying the monster's arm, which was quickly regrown. 108-pound ho! Himiko shouted, performing a circular swing with her swords to send a spiraling air bullet at the behemoth. Didn't you all? Overhaul called out. That girl belongs to me. Only I know how best to use her. I'm the only one that can make the most out of her abilities. You say that, and yet you've only ever used her for one thing. Sumiko mused with a smile before she snapped her fingers. Instantly, all the heroes, police, and injured found themselves right outside of the compound. Say, is it hot all of a sudden? Chikara noted. Sumiko smiled as she pointed upwards. Everyone followed her gaze before Izuku's pupils dilated, realizing what was about to happen. Everyone take cover. Suddenly, the compound was engulfed in a massive sun-like fireball that incinerated it to the ground. Thankfully, all the Yakuza had been taken into custody thanks to the efforts of the police and pro-heroes, so nobody was inside to be harmed. Overhaul, his fused form now burnt and reduced to crawling, dragged himself to the kids, determined to kill them if nothing else, and completely missing how they didn't seem to care. A little overkill, Kazu-kun. Izuku said, looking at the fiery destruction with a smirk before turning to Overhaul with a firm glare. Whatever sick twisted empire you were planning on building is nothing but ash now. Overhaul snarled as he slammed his hand on the ground, creating a giant spike to impale Izuku, only for it to shatter when it came into contact with a giant black metallic fist coming from Ben. Izuku gasped. True enough, Ben was there, clad in the quirk judge's clothes. He had blood running down the side of his head, but he had a glare on his face that could melt titanium. Overhaul couldn't react until Ben rushed forward and grabbed him by the face. This is a real tasty quirk you got right here. Mind if I try it? Overhaul suddenly felt it, his quirk being SE'd out of his body and into the younger man. Izuku could only stare in surprise as Overhaul reverted to normal and fell on his hands and knees, looking up at Ben with horror in his eyes. What did you? What? You wanted to cure your disease, right? Well, I did it for you. You should be thankful. Ben said coldly. No. I still need it. Overhaul screamed as he lunged at Ben desperately, only to be held back by the large black hand, which was protruding from his back. It's the only way I can heal the Oyabun. Did he not hear me say I took care of that already? Sumiko asked incredulously, getting no response. Don't worry, I'll be doing the healing for you, Ben said, his voice incredibly dark. As for right now, you need to pay. Pay what? Overhaul weakly asked, falling to his knees. I'll pay you anything. Just please that if you really cannot heal the boss. Hey, you piece of shit. Ben said before multiple black metallic fists formed from his back. You need to pay the bill. And this bill can't be paid with money. Izuku watched in awe as Ben sent all the shadow metal fists forward at Overhaul in a machine gun barrage. The Yakuza leader jerked and flailed as every part of his body was pulverized by the unrelenting blows. Bones could be heard shattering before one last blow sent Overhaul crashing through a brick wall, his face bloodied and every part of his body mangled and bruised. Pops, I'm so sorry, Pops. The Yakuza leader said internally. Before he blacked out. I couldn't give you the world that you wanted. Ben then took out his notepad and ripped out the page he had written in earlier before flicking it onto Overhaul's comatose body. Here's your receipt. Keep the DMN change, a-hole. Izuku, completely awestruck by the events that had happened, could only say one thing in response. Was that a freaking JoJo reference? Devil. As Overhaul and his men were hauled away, Izuku and his crew along with All Might and Sir Night-Eye met up back at the beach house, where Eri had been with Kirby and Katsuki. See, little lady? He never even touched us. Yato smirked. Now, how about I make us some grub? I already got it started, Katsuki smirked. Well, then I'll finish it. Oh, money, not again. Marco groaned. Feels weird to say that and know it's Dad. Hey, Izuku? Who is the? Rosa started. According to Kimiko, Yato is better at sweets while Kachin is great at savory and/or spicy, especially spicy. Katsuki smirked proudly, while Yato stuck his tongue out. However, everyone quickly remembered the proverbial elephant in the room. Susu. Chikara started. Ben is a famous vigilante who steals quirks. Interesting. Ben sighed, knowing he couldn't hide this. Hilda and Rosa both gave him understanding looks as he decided to tell the truth about his powers. My quirk is Quirk Artificer, Ben said, looking at his hands. It allows me to transfer, overhaul, copy, and manipulate quirks. Basically, in layman's terms, I can copy quirks, steal them, give them back or to others, create a perfect copy of the quirk I stole and give the original back while keeping the copy, change how quirks work when I have them, and even forcefully activate or deactivate quirks with a touch. I can even change how a quirk is activated or force it into a dormant state. In many ways, it's even more powerful than him. Sir Night-Eye muttered, Toshinori nodding. Sorry, who's him exactly? Hilda asked. Toshinori sighed. There's a reason I warned you that a heavy burden would be placed on you if you accepted one for all, young Tukatoya. You see that the villain who nearly killed me that he has been fought before. And only I ever came close to ending his threat. His name is All for One. Sir Night-Eye said. And the story you kids are about to be told is a lot, to put it mildly. One lore dump later. So what you're telling us is that this All for One guy has been around since quirks first started popping up? His quirk allows him to steal and give away quirks? His younger brother was the first user of One for All when he gave him a quirk that fused with his dormant one, and Ben is somehow related to him? Yato asked, trying to wrap his head around it. Toshinori and Sir Night-Eye nodded grimly. Ben let out a deep sigh that he had been holding in, his body shuddering as Hilda gently hugged him close. Ben, it's cool. The plump girl said. We don't think any less of you. He's still alive, that I know he is. Ben muttered. Are you certain? Toshinori asked. I knew for a fact that I crushed his skull when we fought. The doctor, Ben said, which confused everyone. He rescued him. No doubt he's biding his time, waiting to return. I fear he might be correct. Night Eye said, "Bah, this guy ain't so tough. I'm sure we can take him down as long as we do it together." Katsuki boasted, "Let that so-called big bad come at us. We'll destroy his butt." "I don't think you kids understand the full danger that All for One possesses," Toshinori warned. "Just as you do not understand the strength we have," Kanzuya said. "What we showed with the Shai Hasaikai? That was a warm-up," Makoto smirked. "Besides, this guy sounds pretty bad but focused on Japan. And if he is as bad as you say? Well, I think we're going to need more help, but we got some great first crewmates." Izuku smiled, his arms stretched out before he doubled back. "That is? If you guys want to join us? To the ends of the earth, Chumba." Rebecca smiled. "Who else is going to keep us in check?" Makoto smirked. "Well, you know too many of our secrets for us to let you go," Hilda smirked, /. "Maifa was quick to join. I just got my friend back. It'll take every force in the universe to split us up again." "And where Maifa goes?" Nia added. "I go." Himiko motioned the girls to follow her. "There are friends now too." Makuro smirked and followed, along with Bakura. "Did we just get roped into this?" Kobini nervously asked. Yes, we did." Lily K giggled. "This will certainly be the most fun I've had in centuries." Milo chuckled. "Yup, we're a pirate hero crew, people." Rosa said, taking everyone into a hug. "Hey, get in here, Ben. You're part of our nakama as well." Hearing that made him tear up, which was compounded by what Eri said next. "You're one of my heroes. These kids." Night Eye said softly, "I'm using my quirk on them. And that I can see a bright future ahead." Toshinori chuckled. "And what about my future? Is my gruesome demise still imminent?" "No," Night Eye said, surprising the symbol of peace. "That terrible future that I can no longer see it. It's as if fate has been cut in two by the mere presence of these children and their sheer determination. Say, does anyone know where Penny went?" Kahaku suddenly chimed in, causing everyone to realize that she was right. The strange girl hadn't come with them after Overhaul was beaten. "I hope she's okay," Maifa said worriedly. "Hopefully we'll see her again when we get to UA. Devil." After Overhaul and his crew had first been carried away, Penny was picked up by a limo, where a kind old gentleman with dark skin and sitting in a mechanical spider wheelchair was waiting for her. "You should know better than to go running around in a strange city," the man, famed support inventor, Pietro Polendina, said. "It's a lucky thing you managed to meet some trustworthy people." "I know, Daddy," Penny said sadly, hanging her head. "The recommendation exam is coming soon, sweetie. Your time to shine will come," Pietro said, a gentle smile on his face which soon turned playful. "Now, tell me about this boy that has tickled your fancy." "Deawad." "Devil." Overhaul lamented in his failure as he was carried off to Tartarus via an unmarked ship. How had he failed? His plan was flawless. Perfect. Then those brats came along and saved that cursed child. They had taken the Oyabun away from him. Everything he had done to repay the boss' kindness was down the drain. Suddenly, strange music began to play. Before he could question it, he found himself thrown out of his cell and into what looked like a throne room. And in this room were two people whose appearances filled him with dread. The first was a giant of an old woman with pink hair and a large pointed nose reminiscent of a stereotypical wicked witch in a polka-dot dress and a pink pirate captain hat. The other was a giant man with horns atop his head and rippling muscles, one of his arms tattooed by scales and his face in a scowl. They were Charlotte Big Mumlinlin and Kaido, of the Beasts. Two of the most powerful and influential villains alive, and they did not look happy to see him. What do you want with me?" Overhaul weakly stuttered. "Have you come to kill me now that I have nothing?" Oyabun Shisaki was a dear friend of us both. Kaido growled. "To think the lowly little rat he picked up off the street would repay his kindness the way you did." "I wanted to bring the Yakuza back," Overhaul shouted. "Heroes and villains. They are all diseased. I was going to cure them. And yet you relied on your own disease to get as far as you did." Kaido shot back with a snarl, shutting Overhaul up. Mama, You're not going to like what we have planned for you, Kai boy. Big Mom cackled. You'll be left wishing you were dead by the time we're done with you. Before Kai could say a word, two smaller but still towering men grabbed him. One dressed head to toe in black leather armor with wings and a plume of fire on his back, and the other wearing a scarf around his mouth. We'll make sure you spend a good long time with us. The scarfed man, Charlotte Katakuri, sneered. Scum like you who abuse children do not sit well with us. We may be villains, but even we have our standards. The leather-armored man, King, growled. We will make sure you feel every bit of pain that child felt when she was with you. Overhaul was dragged away, screaming in fury and despair as Big Mom and Kaido watched him disappear with contempt. Maybe we ought to send these kids a gift, Kaido mused, as thanks for putting that little brat in his place. You know, I think I know just the thing, Big Mom said with a wicked smirk. It had been a few weeks since the Overhaul incident and things had mellowed out since then. The gang had decided to have Eri live with the rest of the crew over in the beach house since whatever remaining allies Overhaul would have might still try and take her away. Dorothy and Mateel were delighted to take care of Eri, recalling when the Seraphim had been her age. Only she is far better behaved. And not a walking fire hazard. Dorothy smiled, nuzzling Eri's nose. We hate you. Shun spoke for his brothers and sisters. Devil. Izuku had been having a lovely breakfast with his family when a knock on the door alerted the Midoriya family. Hisashi sighed as he got up and went to answer it, only to find a very tall and muscular man standing in front of him. Is this the Midoriya household? Yes. The man gave a bow. Apologies for my intrusion. My name is Charlotte Oven and my siblings and I have come to deliver a gift to this residence. Charlotte. Izuku thought, remembering Rayleigh and Vegapunk talking about a notorious pirate family with that surname. The Midoriya family watched as some strangely garbed people came into the house, bringing in what looked like honest to real-life treasure chests. We offer you our sincerest thanks for taking care of the blight known as Kai Chisaki. A tall, slender woman with a straw hat and cigarette holder with a katana at her side said, My name is Charlotte Amanda and we are in your debt. How do you know about that? Inko worriedly asked. While the news did cover the story, they had kept Izuku and his friends' identities a secret, making sure to censor their pictures and not say their names. We have our ways. My name is Charlotte Daifuku by the way. A giant man with buzz-cut blonde hair and a thin mustache said. Our family was close friends with the former Oyabun of the Shai Hasaikai. When that idiotic brat took over, he besmirched his good name but our hands were tied in other matters, so we could not take action. Oven nodded. But as fate would have it, you have eliminated the issue of Overhaul entirely. Do not worry about him anymore, for we are making sure that he is suffering for all of his crimes in our custody. What? Inko gasped. That's taking the law into your own hands. Mom. Izuku shushed her, sweat dripping down his form. Does it look like we care? Daifuku scoffed. We are of the united group known as the Mother Beast Pirates. Our hands are dipped in every place across the globe. The governments simply leave us be and we don't cause trouble for them. Mother Beast Pirates. Now Izuku remembered. During training, Rayleigh often shared stories of the adventures he, Roger, and their friends had gone on, lands of fishmen, giants, lands lost in time, and villains, of course. And none were more fearsome than Rox D. Zebek and his crew. Despite constant infighting and betrayal, they'd come within a millimeter of world domination 40 years ago, before Roger finally bested Zebek with two unexpected allies, whom Rayleigh had refused to name, telling the kids they'd know when they met them. Of the survivors that escaped that battle, one had gone into semi-retirement, another was definitely in hiding and plotting something big, but two of them had united their forces and become kingpins of crime in not just Japan, but worldwide. Enjoy the cash, Amanda said, bowing. And one more thing, as a special gift, I have volunteered my services to this family. You will not have to worry about anything as long as I'm around. With that, the Charlotte family took their leave. The Midoriyas were left speechless while sweet little Kamiko was innocently confused. They were bye Isaac, the 6-year-old said. Despite it all, Izuku's face faulted at his baby sister's naivety. Devil. Get the hell out of here? Yato gawked as Izuku made his way to the beach house to alert his friends to what had happened. When we checked the treasure chest they gave us, it was full of jewels, gold, and cold hard cash. Izuku nodded. Mom and Dad called the police to investigate things as well as the loot, but it was all legit, so we were allowed to keep it. Dope. Shun said simply. Dad is thinking of using the money to start his own company. Izuku finished. I figured I'd use a bit of my cut to just, hang out? Sweet. I'm down for painting the town. Kahaku cheered. Hey, that rhymed. Would you like to come with us, Eri? Sumiko asked the little girl, who had come to see her saviors as her family. Okay. The little unicorn child whispered. She was still getting used to her new living situation, but little by little, she was opening. We'll watch the house for you, Dorothy said. Pilar is out on one of his deals. Ugh, just tell me if he's dead or not. Rebecca groaned. Come on, Chumais. Let's beat it. I'll call the rest of the gang. Shun said, putting 2 fingers to his temple before being stopped by Kanzuya. Just call them on the group chat with your phone. Devil. And with the singeing of this ribbon, I hereby declare the Mizudafu Community Center and Daycare open. Hisashi released a stream of flames from his mouth as he burned away the ribbon, keeping people from rushing inside the massive, state-of-the-art daycare, swimming pool, arcade, ice cream soda bar, and cafe that he'd started up with the money the big Mombeast pirates had given his family. Cheers and applauses filled the outside as Hisashi moved aside to allow people to look inside and boot up the games to set high scores to beat. Go and play, sweetie. Inko cooed to Kamiko as she placed her down on the ground, the little girl then giggling as she burst into a run. Just make sure Amanda-san can see you. Amanda, replacing her regular cigarette with a lollipop and her beloved sword with a wooden replica, smiled warmly as she followed her young charge, determined to keep her safe, and making a mental note to try and bring her little brothers, sister, and nieces and nephews here sometime. Kamiko was just delighted that now she, Eri, and several other children had a fun place to stay while their parents worked, and that her big brother and his friends would stop by regularly as volunteers. Chikara and Kanzuya had been the ones to do so, remarking that it would not only look good to have caregiving experience for their future heroic careers but also give Izuku the much-needed time and freedom to spend with Kamiko. That and Yato and Katsuki had both challenged each other to eternal coco-ffs until one was decided the best chef of the two, which was incredibly entertaining for all. Eri especially liked watching Yato cook, but seeing Kamiko, she was happy enough to play games under Amanda, Dorothy, and Madel's watchful eyes. Shame the kids have their test today. Masaru sighed. Katsuki and Kirby both would love to set the high scores. Well, now at least they'll have scores to beat. A loud yet kind voice beamed as a tall, brawny, and tanned brunette and his wife came forward. Hisashi quickly moved to shake their hands. Thank you again so much for all your hard work. He smiled at them. And as promised, your daughter and you selves all get 70% off anything here as thanks. Well, with what you paid us and what that Maytel lady paid for that beachside property, we may try and set up shop here. Even if business slows, we have the money for it. The woman, Kasumi Uraraka, beamed. Would be nice to see Ochako and not be drained. Her husband, Go, mused, getting knowing smiles from Hisashi and Mitsuki. Go and Kasumi were founders, presidents, and co-CEO of the formerly struggling Uraraka Construction Company, and through building the daycare, they were now out of the red and truly had the freedom to consider slowing down to relax. Oh, forget the kids for a few hours. Mitsuki beamed, taking her fellow moms into an embrace. When was the last time we got to have some fun for ourselves? Smiling, the trio left their husbands to do a final check on Kamiko and then find some games to play, leaving their husbands to, after admiring them, decide to check out the ice cream bar. Devil. Izuku and his friends were ready to go to UA and take the whole entrance exam by storm as they stood outside the Hero Academy's massive doors. I'm so pumped for this. Kahaku cheered, throwing her fist in the air. We're gonna ace this thing. Here's a challenge. Whoever makes it to number 1 in the scoring gets to pick where we go for dinner tonight, Yato suggested. Oh, you're on. Makoto smirked. I heard from Ben that he, Maifa, Nia, and Bakara took the recommendation exam last week, Sumiko noted. From what he told me, he felt pretty confident in their chances. Yes, considering their skills, I'd say their enrollment is set in stone. Milo agreed. Izuku's crew made their way to the train station, where they also ran into Katsuki, Kirby, Hilda, and Rosa. You ready to destroy this thing, Deku? Izuku beamed. You know it, Kacchan. I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail. Kobini was repeating over and over again, sweat pouring down her face as she clutched what looked like a high-tech slingshot. You're not gonna fail, Kobini. Lily K assured. We're all gonna make it in together. Ben, Maifa, Nia, and Bakara are all sending their best wishes. Hilda smiled. Let's do our best. The group soon arrived at UA in their school uniforms and proceeded to enter the building. After signing in, everyone began the written test, which they found relatively straightforward. Once completed, they made it to the auditorium to receive instructions for the practical exam. Izuku nearly went into fanboy mode when he saw the voice hero, Present Mike, approach the podium. What up, what up? How's everyone doing tonight? He held a hand to his ear. Do I hear a he? He. Kahaku, Hilda, Rosa, Kirby, Milo, and Himiko all cheered. You guys are so embarrassing. Rebecca muttered under her breath. I love you kids. Present Mike beamed, giving a thumbs up before continuing. Now it's time to get down to business. You'll be facing a series of robots worth a series of points. However, even though there is a select number of robots, friendly fire is forbidden and will result in immediate disqualification. Oh, bet that must SEK for you, Kacchan, Izuku smirked as Katsuki scowled. Up yours, Deku. Still, we should probably be cautious. No doubt most of us won't be together. Mikuro pointed out. In other words, they won't let you work with your friends, huh? Katsuki figured. Even though our examinee numbers are consecutive, we're assigned to different battle centers. Sumiko continued. They want to make it as hard as possible. Doing this makes it so we don't get in by relying on someone else to pass. No offense, but I'm planning on showing off as much of myself as possible, Yato smirked. Excuse me, sir, but I have a question. A young man in the middle row stood up with his hand raised, the spotlight shining on him. Present Mike simply smiled and gave double finger guns directed at him. Hit me. On the printout, there are 4 types of villains when you've only shown 3 in your presentation. If this is a misprint, then UA High, the most prominent school in Japan, should be ashamed of that foolish mistake. We examinees are here because we wish to be molded into exemplary heroes. Sheesh, teacher's pet maybe? Rebecca scoffed nonchalantly. In addition, you over there. The boy said next as he pointed at Izuku, who looked confused. You and your friends have been whispering to each other this whole time. It's distracting. If you all are here on a pleasure trip, then you should leave immediately. Or what for eyes? Katsuki immediately retorted with a cocky smirk on his face. Seriously? You have the nerve to interrupt the entire lecture just to ask a dumb question and then accuse us of being distracting. Sumiko added indignantly. It's obvious to anyone with a brain that we're not the ones being a distraction here. Plus, if you can't handle us whispering to ourselves, then how are you going to handle a villain attack when children are crying? Shun continued. What are you going to do? Tell those scared children to stop crying so you aren't distracted. Izuku asked. Huh. So that's how it feels to call someone out. Gotta say, I kind of like it. So how about you do everyone a favor by minding your own business instead? Yato jabbed out. And don't you ever accuse us of not taking this seriously. We're here to be heroes just like everyone else. The only difference is we're all gonna be much better heroes than you. Makoto finished. Many of the nearby students started laughing, embarrassing the other boy. All right, examinee number, thanks for the great message. Present Mike intervened to save the poor kid from further embarrassment. Ugh, I can't with people like him. Rich BSRDS that think they're better than everyone else. Katsuki scoffed. Same, chummy, same. Rebecca said, patting the explosive blonde on the back. Present Mike proceeded to continue his lecture. The fourth type of villain is worth 0 points. That guy's an obstacle to speak. There's one in every battle center. An obstacle that will go crazy in narrow spaces. It's not impossible to defeat, but there's no reason to beat it. I recommend that you listeners try to avoid it. Is that a challenge? Katsuki grinned. Because I'll take it. That's my Kachin, always wanting to fight the biggest guy in the room. Kirby giggled. That's all for me. Present Mike said, wrapping up his presentation. Finally, I'll give you listeners a present our school motto. Napoleon Bonaparte once said that a true hero is someone who overcomes life's misfortunes. I want you kids to go beyond, plus ultra. With that final message, everyone headed off to get changed into their gym uniforms and head to their respective battle centers. Devil. Izuku was in Battle Center B, doing some warm-up stretches while waiting for the exam to begin. By chance, he was accompanied by Hilda, Himiko, and Kirby. Out of the corner of his eye, he also noticed a boy with salmon pink hair looking nervous and trying very hard to get his head in the game. Looks like he needs a bit of encouragement. Izuku thought as he went over to the boy, only for a hand to grab his shoulder, making him groan in irritation as he turned around to see the same guy who called him out at the auditorium. That boy looks like he's trying to focus on this exam. What do you think you're trying to do, distract him and harm his chances of success? Or are you going to dash? Be quiet. The green-haired teen's venomous tone made the boy flinch. Conqueror's hockey was oozing off of him like an oppressive ocean wave, which caught the attention of many other examinees, who braced themselves for whatever was going on. Do you just assume the worst out of everyone you meet? I was going to talk to a guy who needed help, a-hole. Something you wouldn't understand since you likely don't give a DMN about anybody. Izuku hissed before walking off towards the boy, the other examinees making notes on him. DMN, that guy doesn't take shit from anyone. Yeah. Better stay on his good side. 2 DMN true. Izuku gave the pink-haired boy a gentle pat on the back to get his attention, making him jump slightly before relaxing. H.O. Did you need something? The best thing you can do right now is take some deep breaths and clear your head so you can be ready to take on whatever the test is. The boy nodded. Why yeah, thanks. Now is everyone ready? Go! Present Mick's voice blared out. Izuku quickly took off, Hilda, Himiko, and Kirby following after him. Much to Izuku's surprise, the pink-haired boy was following close behind as well. What? You think this was going to be a normal test? Here it is, you gotta go. Beyond like those kids there. Present Mike exclaimed to the rest of the confused examinees, who quickly hurried after the 5 who were now way ahead of them. Izuku quickly used the float fruit to levitate himself in the air before using the glint fruit to fire light bolts from his fingers, striking various poses to angle his shots better. Already, he had amassed 17 points with this method. Hilda rushed toward a 3-pointer robot and leaped into the air before coming down with her but, crushing it underneath her massive weight as she laughed before standing back up, dusting her shorts off. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good now. Himiko gracefully ran through the streets before drawing 3 swords that she had strapped to her hip. Holding 2 of the swords in her hands, she clenched the third in her mouth tightly with a cat-like grin before approaching a group of 2-pointer robots. Tatsumaki! Spinning with the swords, Himiko ended up kicking up a massive tornado that took the form of a snarling dragon, scooping up the robots and cutting them up into pieces as well. Whoa! That's so cool! Kirby exclaimed, stars in her eyes. Himiko giggled. Thanks, my daddy helped with teaching me it. Said it was to carry on the legacy of a legendary swordsman he knew a long time ago. Hey, think I can have that sword for a moment? Himiko shrugged and handed Kirby one of her swords, which the pink-haired girl surprised her by swallowing it whole, glowing brightly before being clad in an outfit similar to Link from Legend of Zelda. Sword Kirby! The 2 girls charged at the robots, their blades leaving a path of destruction behind them as they decided to see who could score the most points. Devil. Rosa was with Katsuki and Rebecca in Battle Center A. Rosa absorbed the concrete from the ground and turned her hands into hammers to smash up the approaching robots as Katsuki flipped over a 3-pointer and raised his leg high. Konkasei! Bringing his heel down, Katsuki smashed the robot so hard that it split in half from the impact before he launched himself with his explosions and delivered a point-blank burst to an approaching two-pointer. "You're an animal, Bakugu." Rebecca laughed as she detached her arm via an energy chain and swung it like a flail to send a small group of one-pointers flying. "Strong right." "She shoots," Rosa said, having crumpled up a two-pointer into a ball before throwing it into a line of one-pointers. "She scores." "Heh, hope you guys can keep up with me." Katsuki smirked as he rushed ahead of the two girls, who quickly followed after him, Rosa absorbing the metal from one of the destroyed robots and turning her left arm into a chainsaw. "Devil." Yato smirked as he whipped out a three-section staff and smacked away two one-pointer robots. Makoto and Chikara were with him as Yato dashed ahead, using Snatch to steal power from the robots. "Fox Hunt." The robots were sliced up. Yato then extended his staff to steal one of their heads and send it crashing into a cluster of two-pointers, causing them to explode. "Show off." Chikara huffed as he noticed one robot who hadn't been hit by Yato but had a small gash. Status promotion. Just like that, the gash became a huge tear that destroyed the robot as Makoto jumped ahead and drew out his sword. Dragon style, wind sweep. Makoto delivered a sweeping slash that sent out a gust of razor-sharp air that cut through several robots, which then exploded as soon as they were torn apart. Yato grinned as he was sitting on a pile of trashed robots with his staff around his neck. 34 points, what are you at? 35. Makoto smirked. 37. Chikara dryly said, having turned his pillow into several daggers that pin-cushioned a three-pointer. "Oh, screw you, devil." Kahaku was with Marco, Makuro, and Kobini, the four searching for some robots to take out. "Oh, why did I even think this was a good idea? I don't even have a quirk," Kobini cried. "And yet you have speed and skills," Makuro pointed out. "Don't sell yourself short, Kobini." "Heads up," Kahaku called out as some robots began approaching them. Makuro went first, taking out an AK-47 and firing bullets with tactical precision, punching through the robot's chassis easily with armor-piercing rounds. "Thanks for setting them up all nice for me." Kahaku grinned as she moved in next. Concentrating, she had a pillar launch her at the robots at high speed, and just before impact, she turned into steel. When she impacted the robots, she was a literal human bullet as she tore through all of them instantly. When she cleared the last one, she turned back to normal and skidded on her feet, stopping in a crouch. "That's my heavy metal technique." "Impressive." Makuro nodded. Marco threw Click in his scarab shield form, who ricocheted off several robots before suddenly causing them to erupt into flames thanks to Marco infusing him with the fire element beforehand. Kobini was taking rapid-fire breaths as she scrambled to find a place to hide, only to see several robots converging on her location. With a cry of terror, she reached into a pouch she had strapped to her waist and pulled out some kind of colorful pellet before firing it from her slingshot, which hit the ground before growing rapidly into a giant Venus flytrap, which began to tear apart the robots. "Whoa! What was that?" a girl exclaimed as she came over. She had long hair that was white on the left side and red on the right. The colors were perfectly separated at the middle of her scalp. Her hair was arranged into two long ponytails with two circular braids at the end that were also seen at the top of her head, and she had bangs covering her left eye. "Those are pop greens, farmed from the islands of Boyne Archipelago," Makuro explained. "Kobini grows them herself. She's quite talented in that." "No way!" Kahaku gasped as she recognized the girl. "Aren't you Yuta, the famous young idol singer?" The girl, Yuta, giggled. "That's me. I figured UA was the place to start my career as an idol hero." "So cool!" the Seraphim of Envy cried. "Can I have your autograph?" "Devil." Sumiko walked stridently through the streets as Milo walked beside her, playing on their violin nonchalantly while Lilikay walked beside them, carrying a short, orange staff with white striped parallel lines and an orange round knob on each side. Robots soon came out and locked onto them, but the trio wasn't afraid. Sumiko merely held up a Fushigi orb, which started to glow brightly. "Storm call." Then a lightning bolt flashed down on the first row. The robots. The end result was them exploding. Time to put this staff that Bakara and Kobini worked on to good use. Lily Kay smiled as her staff extended itself with a simple squeeze. Waving the staff around, Lily Kay began forming dark clouds that she then moved her staff through, sending a chain of lightning in the form of a spear that pierced the second row of robots. Once more, they all exploded. Thunder Lance Tempo. Milo simply strolled past the last row of robots, sheathing their cane sword back into the sheath as the robots all crumbled into junk and then exploded for good measure. 3-verse humming, arrow notch slash. Many other examinees watched with awe, unable to comprehend the power shown by the three. One of them, a girl who looked like an anthropomorphic white rabbit with blonde hair, smiled excitedly, her eyes sparkling with admiration. I think I recognize that one with the wings. Isn't she one of the legendary Dr. Vegapunk's Seraphim? Devil. Shun had come across a one-pointer that tried to rush him, which he ducked a strike from before delivering a solid bare-hand punch to its chest, causing the metal to cave in. The metal is surprisingly weak. The Seraphim of Lust proceeded to jump on an approaching three-pointer, wanting to try something as he placed his hand on it and used invasion, causing the optic to glow magenta instead of red. It seems my meta ability can work on machines as well, he said as he took complete control. Hijack. With the three-pointer under his control, Shun began to command it to lay waste to its own allies. Devil. Kanzuya had activated his sun form, and the pure heat he was radiating off of him drove off any examinees in the area. In his hands was an ornate axe forged for him by a friend of Rayleigh that he dubbed Rita, after the axe used by his ancestor, Escaner, himself. The melted remains of several robots were laid waste behind him. Of course, he had generously allowed his fellow examinees to take out their fair share in the spirit of good sportsmanship because everyone deserved a chance. However, being made from Escaner's lineage factor did entail that he inherited his pride and the strength to back his claims. Such a nice sunny day today, he mused before hearing one of the robots being compacted. Prime directive should have been to kill your adiposla den rear when the opportunity was given. A three-pointer bellowed. Sorry, what was that? You gotta speak up. A female southern voice drawled out before a makeshift compactor that seemed to be formed from the parts of other robots crushed the three-pointer. Heh, that was awesome. Kanzuya approached the source of the voice to see a young woman standing over the wreckage. Head to toe, she was visibly large with protruding hips and stumpy legs, a large bust, and chubby, rosy cheeks. With a perky nose and cheery eyes, pouty lips and rounded chin, with noticeably little ears, concealed by short, caramel hair. Her humongous hips swayed from side to side as she turned, eyes scanning her surroundings, the loose overalls helping none to resist the natural bounce of her voluptuous bust. Oh, howdy. I didn't see you there. Name's Ellie. She greeted Kanzuya when her eyes laid on him. Didn't think I'd see other people having fun with this exam, especially not one so cute. Kanzuya had a faint dusting of pink on his cheeks as he nodded his head with a smile before admiring the compactor. You made this from the enemy robots? All thanks to my quirk, Blueprint, lets me take any raw materials and build them up into whatever I want. The round girl proudly said. Kinda like what you see in those Lego games or in that thing all the dumb kids play. Fortnite, was it? Well, it is certainly an interesting meta ability, Kanzuya noted. Shall we join our forces? Ain't you a heartbreaker, already playing with a girl like me? Ellie smirked. Well, with them abs, you could melt diamonds, Dean. Please, you are embarrassing me. Kanzuya politely waved off, still blushing. Devil. How's everyone going? Izuku called out to Hilda, Kirby, and Himiko. I think I got maybe 0.64 points. Hilda called out. Same here. Kirby chirped after slicing a two-pointer in half with her sword. Around 69. Himiko giggled. Nice. Har har. Izuku rolled his eyes, getting the joke Himiko made. Suddenly, a ton of examines ran past him. Wondering what the big deal, he looked and his eyes widened a bit when he saw the zero-pointer. Holy cow, it's huge. Hilda exclaimed. I'm gonna need a bigger sword. Kirby gulped, dispelling her transformation. Help. Izuku's head snapped around and saw a brown-haired girl with rosy cheeks pinned under rubble with the zero-pointer headed straight toward her. "Hey, isn't that the Uraraka's daughter?" Hilda asked in concern. "We gotta help her," Himiko cried, sheathing her swords and running over to the girl, moving the rubble off of her as Hilda and Kirby came to help. As for Izuku, he glared up at the zero-pointer as it got closer and closer. He then held out his hand and a pale blue sphere formed from it before expanding to encompass the area around the giant robot. Room. With the power of the op-op fruit, Izuku coated his hand in armament hockey before delivering a powerful slicing motion reminiscent of a sword. Devil. In the teacher's lounge, many of UA's staff were gobsmacked as they saw in each of the individual zones how the zero-pointers were annihilated. Izuku had not only cleanly cut his zero-pointer in half but also the buildings surrounding it as Hilda, Himiko, and Kirby helped move the girl to safety. Makoto had simply let his zero-pointer punch him before activating full counter, reflecting the entire heavy strike with twice the force, toppling the metal behemoth over as Yato and Chikara tore it apart themselves. With help from Ellie forming a springboard out of destroyed robot parts, Kanzuya jumped into the air before creating a sun-like fireball that not only dragged the zero-pointer into the sky but then exploded with the terrifying brilliance of a nuclear warhead which could be seen for miles. Sumiko used her storm call spell again but mixed it with the power of Lalik's staff, the Climatact, to generate a massive thundercloud that struck the zero-pointer with a massive lightning bolt that incinerated it while Milo took the time to record it on their phone. Katsuki had Rosa throw him in a fastball special as he delivered a powerful flaming kick that he had managed to HRS by igniting the friction around his leg to strike the zero-pointer. With what he called bien cute, grill shot, leaving a grill-shaped burn mark on the zero-pointer as it toppled over like a domino. Kahaku had summoned a giant rock golem she called Rockin' Doll to smash her zero-pointer apart, which Kobeni had also restrained ahead of time with a pop green that sprouted several tall bamboo spears to impale it. Shun had formed a bow made of magenta energy before firing an arrow into the zero-pointer in his zone, causing it to shut down completely. "It seems we have a fine crop of students this year," the principal of UA, Nedzu, noted as he took a sip of his tea. "Young Midoriya, young Yasakani, and their friends are all so cool." Tashinori smiled. Considering the large number of students with great potential and due to their actions in helping bring down Overhaul. Nedzu smiled as he turned to Tashinori. "I'm proud to say that I managed to get the HPSC to approve a third hero course class just for them. You also convinced them to add 4 additional seats for each class as well." A tired-looking man with shaggy black hair ummed out. "Which means more work for me." "Come now, Shota, more students for the hero course means more hopefuls get the chance to shine," chided a man with silver hair. "I could tell those kids were good eggs." Present Mike beamed as a beautiful woman with voluminous purple hair nodded. "I heard from my little baby boy Benny that his friends were all good, didn't think they'd be that good." "You gotta stop spoiling the kid when he officially becomes a student here, Nem." A man in a gas mask dressed as a cowboy advised. "After all, it's ill-advised to give students special treatment." "Be that as it may, I'm looking forward to what Izuku and his crew can do," Nedzu mischievously said. "Especially if the stories I've heard are true." Devil. Meanwhile, Ben was hanging out at Big Bang Burger with Bakara, Maifa, Nia, and one of the tallest boys his age he'd ever met, a boy who rivaled Cementos in height with a shaved head. "How's the chow, buddy?" Ben smirked as he wiped his mouth clean of ketchup. "Fantastic, Ben." The boy beamed in a very loud and passionate voice as he devoured his cosmic tower burger with gusto. His name was Inasa Yorashi and he possessed a wind manipulation quirk that he had already pro-level mastery of. The boys had met at the recommendation exam, tying for races and civilian rescue. But what had cemented their friendship was their mutual dislike for Shoto Todoroki, the son of number 2 hero Endeavor who was, well, let's just say his people's skills needed work. How much work? Inasa had been determined to go to another school, not trusting any school that let such a cold, rude, and dispassionate young man into their halls. Luckily, not just for their friendship but UA itself, Ben had managed to convince him to stay despite his dislike for Shoto. How had he done so? You could go to another academy and shine there, and Lord knows you would. Ben had mused. Or you could go to the same school and eclipse him. Inesa had thought of that. And while normally he would have called Ben out on such a tactic, he then saw the hot-blooded part of such an act, persevering and then overcoming Endeavor's son, and through extension, Endeavor himself. I'll do it. And so, here they were, grabbing a burger as they waited to hear from the rest of the crew. Oi, you guys were at the recommendation exam, right? The five turned to see a very tall girl, about 8 feet 8 inches with long, white hair bound between orange rods into a ponytail at the back, which faded into aqua green and then blue the further down it went, and ended in rectangular locks. She also had large, orange eyes with prominent eyelashes, gold hoop earrings on both ears, and horns on the top of her head which were mostly red, but gradually became more flesh-colored toward the base. Accompanying her was a beautiful girl of more average height with long wavy light blue hair that had 2 locks hanging down, one on either side of her head, which started at about chin length but were past her shoulders, and brown eyes. Yamato-san. Vivi-san. So good to hear from you again. Inesa beamed. Yamato and Nefertari Vivi were 2 other recommendation exam practitioners whom the group had met. They were some of the few besides Inesa who could keep up with them. Yamato was from a far-off land and preferred to be addressed as a boy, to pay tribute to someone who saved him many years ago, but who he kept nameless and didn't like talking about. He was incredibly strong and durable and had even unleashed a torrent of Conqueror's haki during his test when his fake villain egged him on in a fight after he'd saved his civilian. Vivi was, if Ben had to make a comparison, like a Disney princess's. She had been born to the throne of the eastern country of Alabasta but, wanting to be the best kind of ruler for her people, decided to enroll at the same school as All Might and learn how to be hero. She was also incredibly kind and selfless. She gave her lunch to a homeless person without a second thought, and when some had complained about Ben and Inesa's quirks, she had defended them. I was about to grab another burger. Would you lovely ladies and gentlemen care to join us? Ben suavely offered, getting a smirk and acceptance. Suffice to say, these coming years at UA would be very interesting, and Ben couldn't wait to introduce these two to Izuku and the crew.